Everything at my best friend's baby shower seemed flawless until my husband leaned over and whispered urgently, "We need to leave right now." I was taken aback. "Why? What's happening?" I asked. He stayed silent until we reached the car. Then turning to me, he said, "You honestly didn't notice, did you?" What he revealed next made my heart sink. Before I share what he discovered in that room, the secret that shattered my 20-year friendship, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by those you trusted most. My name is Ella, and at 33, I make a living uncovering hidden money. As a forensic accountant, I can trace a secret offshore account through multiple shell companies before finishing my morning coffee. But despite my professional skills, I was completely blind to the betrayal happening right under my nose. It's ironic how we can spot a missing decimal on a financial report but overlook glaring warning signs in the people closest to us. That day was meant to be a joyous occasion, the baby shower for Tanisha, my best friend since childhood. She calls herself a lifestyle influencer, but her true talent lies in spending other people's money. The party took place at her massive Buckhead mansion in Atlanta, a home I knew was drowning in debt because I had helped her husband, Andre, restructure it just last year. The theme was a royal welcome, and Tanisha demanded nothing but perfection. When she tearfully told me 3 weeks earlier that Andre was struggling with cash flow and the party might be canceled, I did what I always do. I stepped up. I wrote a check for $25,000 to cover catering, decorations, and the event planner. I told myself it was a gift for the baby, that Tanisha deserved this moment of joy after all she'd been through. I didn't tell myself I was being taken advantage of. That was a truth I wasn't ready to face. I arrived at the mansion 2 hours early, not as a guest of honor, but as unpaid staff. The event planner was short on help. So there I was, the woman funding the entire event, carrying crates of champagne and adjusting floral arrangements worth more than my first car. I was sweating through my silk dress by the time the first guests arrived. That's when Becky showed up. Becky is my sister-in-law, married to my brother Dante for 3 years and constantly looking down on us. She's 30, with a smile that never reaches her eyes and a passive-aggressive attitude. She walked in wearing a white lace dress that looked suspiciously like a bridal gown, blatantly ignoring the unspoken rule against wearing white to someone else's party. She spotted me near the dessert table, struggling to steady a leaning tower of macarons. With a glass of red wine already in hand, she glided over. "Oh, Ella," she said loud enough for the nearby staff to hear, "you look exhausted. That dress is something else. It looks durable, like something you'd wear for yard work. It's very brave to wear that here. My dress was a limited edition Zimmerman piece costing $800, but coming from Becky, it sounded like burlap." I forced a smile and stood tall. "It's silk, Becky," I replied calmly, "and I'm tired because I've been setting up this party since 8 this morning." "It's silk, Becky," I answered quietly, "and I'm exhausted because I've been preparing this party since 8 this morning." "Where were you?" she asked, sipping her wine. "Oh, I was at the spa," she said. "Dante told me you had everything handled. You're really great at doing the hard work, Ella. It's like it comes naturally to you, isn't it? Some of us are meant to be waited on, and some are meant to wait." Before I could reply, she stepped closer and pretended to stumble. The glass of red wine tipped in her hand, spilling a deep crimson splash right onto the front of my cream silk dress. The stain spread quickly, like an open wound across my chest. "Oops," she said with no hint of remorse. "Well, at least now you have a reason to change into something more fitting. Honestly, the red looks better on you. It matches your skin tone." I stood there frozen. The cold wine soaked through to my skin, but the fire of my anger kept me burning inside. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her to leave. But looking around at the guests arriving, Tanisha's husband's business associates, Atlanta's social elite, I swallowed my fury. I refused to be the angry black woman causing a scene. I wouldn't give Becky that satisfaction. I grabbed a napkin and dabbed at the stain as Becky laughed and walked off to greet another guest. I slipped away to the kitchen to try to save the dress with club soda. That's when my brother Dante found me. Dante is 34, 2 years older than me, but he acts like a teenager. He hasn't had a steady job in 5 years, yet he drives a leased BMW and wears suits way beyond his means. He cornered me near the industrial fridge, eyes flicking nervously. "Ella, I need a favor." he whispered. I kept scrubbing the wine stain, avoiding his gaze. I'm a little busy, Dante. Your wife just wrecked my $800 dress. Yeah, she said you're clumsy. Dante shrugged off my complaint. Look, I need you to send me $2,000 on Cash App right now. I stopped scrubbing and stared at him. Are you out of your mind? I just spent $25,000 on this party, Dante. I just paid your rent last month. Why do you need $2,000 now? It's for a gift, he hissed, leaning in. Becky wants to get Tanisha this designer diaper bag, but my card got declined. It's a banking glitch, obviously, but I need to buy it now so we don't look bad. Come on, Ella, you've got plenty of money. Don't be stingy. It's for the baby. It's always for the baby or family or some emergency. The reason changes, but the demand stays the same. No, Dante, I said firmly. I'm not giving you $2,000 to buy a gift you can't afford just to impress people you don't even like. Tell Becky to buy a card. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. Don't humiliate me, Ella. All these important people are here. If we show up empty-handed, we look like trash. Just send the money. You make more in a week than I make in a year. You owe me. I owe you, I asked, stunned. For what? For being the one who stayed, he said, playing the victim. You left to get your fancy degrees and become some big-shot accountant. I stayed here and cared for Mom. I held the family together. The least you can do is share the money. It was a lie. He stayed because he failed college, and Mom let him slide. But arguing with Dante was pointless. I was drained. I was stained with wine. I just wanted to survive the next 3 hours without a family fight. Fine, I snapped, pulling out my phone. $2,000. All I wanted was to get through the next 3 hours without a single family argument. Fine, I snapped, pulling out my phone. $2,000. But this is the last time, Dante. I mean it. He peered over my shoulder as I completed the transfer, a smug smile spreading across his face the moment the confirmation appeared. And thanks, sis, he said, patting my cheek in a patronizing way. You really saved me. But seriously, try to clean up that dress. You look like a disaster. He left, abandoning me alone in the kitchen with my dwindling bank balance and a ruined dress. I took a deep breath, touched up my makeup, and stepped back into the party. The main event was about to begin. Tanisha sat on an enormous velvet throne I'd rented for $500. I had to admit she looked stunning. She was radiant, her hands resting gently on her large baby bump, draped in shimmering gold chiffon. Andre stood behind her, proud yet anxious. I spotted my husband, Daniel, near the back of the room. Daniel works as a cybersecurity consultant, a man of few words but sharp observation. He glanced at my stained dress, his jaw tightening. Becky, he asked quietly. I nodded. And Dante just strong-armed me for $2,000. Daniel's eyes darkened. We should leave, Ella. These people don't respect you. They're eating your food, drinking your champagne, and treating you like staff. Just a bit longer, I whispered, squeezing his hand. Tanisha's about to open the gifts. I want to see her face when she gets the stroller. I had spent weeks searching for the perfect present. I bought a Silver Cross Balmoral pram, the kind used by British royalty. It cost $1,800, classic, elegant, and durable. I knew Tanisha wanted the best for her twins, and this was the finest gift money could buy. Tanisha tore through gift after gift, squealing with delight at designer onesies and silver rattles. Finally, she reached the large box with my card on it. Oh, this one's from Ella, she announced to everyone. My bestie, let's see what she got. She ripped off the wrapping, and Dante helped her lift the pram from the box. It shimmered under the chandelier navy blue with chrome accents. It was breathtaking. The room fell silent for a moment, admiring the gift. Then Tanisha's expression soured. It's blue, she said flatly. It's navy, I said, stepping forward gently. It's a timeless color, Tanisha. Perfect for boys or girls. Tanisha wrinkled her nose, eyeing the pram like it was garbage. But I wanted the beige one, Ella. Beige matches my nursery decor. This looks outdated, like something a nanny would push. An uneasy chuckle spread through the room, led by Becky, who stood in the front row. Well, I guess it's the thought that counts, Becky said. Tanisha sighed loudly enough for everyone to hear. Do you have the receipt? I think I'll just return it and take the cash. I could use a spa weekend after all the stress from this party. My cheeks burned. 50 people were staring at me, some with sympathy, others with amusement. I'd spent $1,300 on a gift, only to have it dismissed as wrong, ugly, and destined to be converted into cash for a spa day. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but before I could say a word, a hand touched my arm. It was Daniel. I hadn't realized he'd left on my side, but apparently he'd stepped inside to use the restroom during the gift opening. Now he was back, and he looked different. Usually Daniel is the most composed person I know. In his job, he handles corporate hackers and digital extortionists without breaking a sweat. But right now, his face was pale as ghost. He deals with corporate cyber criminals and online blackmailers effortlessly. Yet at this moment, his complexion was ghostly pale. His eyes were wide and locked with an intense, frightening focus. His grip on my arm was sharp enough to hurt. "We're leaving," he said, his voice a low, rumbling growl deep in his chest. What I whispered, "Don't get mixed up." "Daniel, we can't leave yet. I have to settle the caterers at the end of the night, and Tanisha hasn't even cut the cake." "We're leaving now," Daniel repeated louder this time. He ignored Tanisha and the guests, staring at me with an urgency that sent chills down my spine. "Daniel, what's wrong? Is it your mother? Work!" He yanked me toward the exit, not gently. He was forcibly pulling me away from the party I'd organized. "Don't ask questions, Ella," he hissed into my ear. "Just come. If you stay in this house one more minute, I swear I'll kill them. Every last one." The ferocity in his voice was so unlike him that I stopped resisting. I let him lead me out the front door, past the valet, and down the long driveway to where our car waited. Behind us, I heard Tanisha's voice, sharp and demanding, echoing from the open patio doors. "Ella, where are you going? You can't leave. Who will settle the bill for the waitstaff? Ella, come back." Daniel didn't slow down. He unlocked the car, shoved me into the passenger seat, and climbed in behind the wheel. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the keys. "Daniel, please talk to me," I begged, heart pounding. "What happened in there? What did you see?" He kept driving, his focus sharper than I'd ever seen, knuckles white, gripping the leather steering wheel of our SUV. We were only a couple blocks from Tanisha's estate, parked under the thick canopy of an old oak on a quiet street. Yet it felt like we'd crossed into another world. The silence inside the car was crushing, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning and the furious beating of my own heart. My thoughts raced back to the party, running through a mental list of catastrophes. We'd just walked out. We'd abandoned the event of the season without farewells. The social consequences would be devastating. But worse than the gossip was the financial fallout. "Daniel," I said, panic rising in my voice, "we have to go back. You don't realize I have the credit card on file for the catering. The balance is $8,000. If I'm not there to approve the final charge, they'll hit us with a penalty fee. That's another $1,500. Daniel didn't respond. He just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched tight. "And the cake," I hurried on, words spilling faster and faster. "The baker needs final payment upon delivery. Tanisha doesn't have the money. If the cake isn't cut, she'll lose it. She's been obsessing over this gender reveal cake for months." Daniel turned the vehicle around. "We can sort this out, but we can't just walk away." He finally looked at me. His eyes no longer burned with anger. They held a deep, heartbreaking pity that frightened me more than his fury ever could. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Unlocking it, he tapped the screen a few times, then held it out toward me. "Watch this," he said flatly, his voice drained of all emotion. I stared at the phone. It was the video he had recorded just moments before. My hands trembled so much I had to hold the phone with both hands to keep it steady. I pressed play. My hands shook so violently that I had to grip the phone with both hands to keep it steady. I hit play. The camera angle was low and partially hidden. Shot through a crack in the master bedroom door, I recognized the silk wallpaper in Tanisha's room. I recognized the luxurious Egyptian cotton duvet cover I had gifted her for her new home. Tanisha stood beside the bed. Becky perched on the mattress edge, clutching a glass of wine in one hand and a bottle of Grey Goose vodka in the other. But it was what Tanisha did next that completely scrambled my mind. On the tiny screen, my pregnant best friend, the same woman whose swollen ankles I had massaged, whose morning sickness I had tended to reach beneath her flowing chiffon dress. There was a sharp ripping noise, like Velcro being torn apart. Then Tanisha peeled off her stomach, I gasped, the air forced from my lungs in a sharp rush. I watched in stunned horror as she removed a huge, flesh-toned silicone prosthetic. It was heavy. I could see the weight as she swung it around and casually tossed it onto the bed, like a throw pillow. Beneath the fake belly, her stomach was flat, impossibly flat. She wore Spanx and a tank top, and there was no baby bump. There was no baby. "Oh God, that's better," Tanisha groaned on the video, stretching her arms overhead and twisting her torso. "It's so hot in that thing. I'm sweating buckets. Pass me the vodka." Becky laughed a harsh, grating cackle that set my nerves on edge. She handed the bottle to Tanisha, who took a long, deep gulp straight from the neck. "You're brilliant, Tanisha," Becky said, swirling her wine. "Look at them out there. Andre's crying over a pair of baby shoes, and Ella's running around like a headless chicken, footing every bill." Bile arose in my throat. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was frozen by the sight of my brother's wife and my best friend laughing together in that room. "That clueless Ella just wired Dante $2,000, Tanisha said, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. She checked her phone and smirked. "It cleared. That's our spa money for tomorrow. We're going all out, Becky. Hot stones, facials, the whole shebang." Becky smiled, revealing teeth that looked sharp in the dim light. "She's so desperate to belong," Becky said. "It's pathetic. She thinks if she keeps buying gifts, we'll actually like her." Dante played her like a fiddle. He told her I needed a present to save face, and she opened her wallet before he finished the sentence. Tanisha sat beside the fake belly, patting it fondly. "And Andre," she said, shaking her head mockingly. "He's a goldmine, but dumb as a rock. He actually believes he's having twins." "Twins? Can you believe he fell for it? Once I get him to sign the post-nup securing the kids' assets, I'm set for life." Becky leaned in, lowering her voice to a secretive whisper that the microphone still caught perfectly. "What's the end game? How are we getting out of this?" Tanisha shrugged. "I'll have a miscarriage next week, maybe after the spa day. I'll stage a fall down the stairs or something dramatic. It'll be tragic. I'll blame it on stress from Ella. Say she upset me at the party. Andre will despise her. He'll cut her off. I'll keep the assets, and Ella will probably pay for the funeral too, out of guilt. She's a bottomless ATM, that one. Loves to pay for her own misery. Context, even at the funeral, driven by guilt. She's like an endless cash machine, loves to fund her own sorrow." Becky tapped her wine glass against a vodka bottle. To the twins she toasted, the unseen heirs of the dynasty, and to Tisha, the cleverest fool we know. The video concluded. The screen faded to black. I sat there in the front passenger seat of the SUV, gazing at my reflection in the dark phone screen. A chill ran through me, bone deep, despite the sweltering Atlanta heat. Ella Daniels' voice echoed distantly. I couldn't respond. My stomach churned violently. I scrambled for the door handle, flung it open, and leaned out just in time. I dry heaved onto the pavement, my body trying to purge the poison of what I had just witnessed. There was nothing in my stomach but bitterness and betrayal. Daniel's hand rested on my back, gently rubbing small circles, but I barely sensed it. My mind spun, replaying the last 6 months of my life. I recalled the night Tanisha called me at 3 a.m., screaming in agony. She said she was having contractions. She feared she was losing the babies. I had rushed over in my pajamas, driven her to the hospital, but she refused to let me accompany her. She said the doctor allowed only family, meaning Andre. I waited there for 5 hours, terrified. When she emerged, she looked frail and worn out. She told me the doctor said it was a high-risk complication, and she needed a special medication that insurance wouldn't cover right away. She required $5,000 in cash to start treatment immediately. I didn't hesitate. I transferred the money. I hugged her. I thank God she was all right. It was a lie. Everything was a lie. She probably walked into the ER complaining of a headache and walked out with my $5,000 in her pocket. I remembered the shopping sprees, the nursery furniture, the organic cotton baby clothes, the thousands of dollars I had invested in this pregnancy because I wanted to be the supportive aunt. I remembered how Becky would glare at me with that sneer, making remarks about how I was trying too hard since I couldn't have children of my own. They knew. They knew about my miscarriage 2 years ago. They knew how shattered I was when I lost my baby, and they exploited that. They turned my pain into a weapon to rob me. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand and sat upright. I felt hollowed out. The sorrow I expected was absent. The grief for the friendship was gone. It had been incinerated by the shock of the truth. "She isn't pregnant," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "No," Daniel replied softly. "And Becky knows. And Dante knows. They all know." Daniel said, "They're all involved, Ella. They've been deceiving you. They've been deceiving Andre. It's an elaborate scam." I looked at the house down the street. I could see the valet parking the cars. I could see balloons swaying in the breeze. Inside that home, 50 people were celebrating a fabrication. Andre was inside handing out cigars, believing he was about to become a father. He was as much a victim as I was, maybe more. I pulled myself back into the car and closed the door. The air conditioning hit my face, cooling the sweat on my forehead. "I need a moment," I said, "just a moment to gather my thoughts." "Take all the time you need," Daniel said. "We're not going anywhere until you're ready." I closed my eyes, tried to summon the forensic accountant within me, tried to push aside the hurt friend and become the cold, unyielding auditor. To awaken the forensic accountant inside me, I pushed aside the wounded friend and transformed into a detached, relentless auditor. I ran the finances through my mind, the catering deposit, the florist, the venue booked for the gender reveal next month, the loans given to Dante, the credit card charges Becky racked up on the emergency card I'd entrusted to her. It wasn't just a few $1,000s. Over the past 6 months, between gifts, medical crises, loans, and party expenses, nearly $60,000 had been drained from me. And they intended to take more. They were plotting to swindle Andre out of millions. My phone vibrated in my lap. The screen glowed, piercing the darkness of the car. The caller ID read Tanisha. I stared at it. The photo was a college selfie of us, smiling with our arms around each other. Now it looked like a picture of strangers. "Answer it." Daniel said, "Put it on speaker." I hesitated. My hands trembled, but then I recalled the video, the laughter as she described faking a miscarriage and blaming me, her calling me an endless ATM. I swiped to answer and tapped the speaker button. "Hey, girl." Tanisha's voice filled the car, high-pitched, bubbly, dripping with faint sweetness. "Where did you disappear to? The cake cutting is in 10 minutes, and everyone's asking for Auntie Ella." I took a deep breath, steadying my voice, forcing myself to sound like the naive, eager-to-please friend she expected. "I'm so sorry, Tanisha," I said. "Daniel wasn't feeling well. His stomach was upset. We had to stop by the pharmacy." "Oh no," she exclaimed, feigning genuine concern, which I now recognized as a masterful act. "Is he okay? We really need you back. The florist just pulled me aside. There's an outstanding balance for the orchid wall check on 200. They said they'll start taking it down in 20 minutes if it's not paid. Can you believe that? So rude." Of course, the florist. Another crisis. Only my credit card could resolve. "Where's 200? I asked. "Yeah," Tanisha replied. "I know that's a lot, but the photos will be stunning. Honestly, I can't handle this stress right now, Ella. The doctor said my blood pressure has to stay low for the twins. If I get upset, it could trigger contractions again." She was doing it, using the fake pregnancies as leverage against me. "Don't worry, Tanisha," I said. My voice sounded robotic, but she didn't notice. "I'll take care of it. Don't stress. Think about the twins." "You're the best," she squealed. "Seriously, I don't know what I'd do without you. Hurry back, okay? Becky's dying to make a toast, and she wants you there. Love you." "Love you too," I replied. Then the call ended. I set the phone down. The silence in the car was heavy, but it felt different now. Not one of confusion, but of sharp focus. "She wants $2,200 for flowers," I said to Daniel. He looked at me, his eyes dark with anger, but waiting for my move. "What's the plan?" I glanced down at my dress. The wine stain was drying, turning a dark, ugly purple like blood. "They think I'm naive," I whispered. "They think I'm weak. They believe because I love fiercely I'm blind." I met Daniel's gaze. The tears had dried. My eyes were clear. "Take me home?" I asked. "Home?" Daniel said, surprised. "You want to go home?" "No," I said. "I mean my home office. I need my laptop, my multiple monitors, access to my server." Daniel smiled, a small, sharp smile. I'm talking about my home workspace. I require my laptop, several monitors, and secure server access. Daniel's lips curled into a subtle, keen smile. The smile of a man poised for battle. You're planning to audit them, aren't you? I'm not merely auditing them, Daniel, I replied, gripping my phone like a weapon. I'm going to tear them apart. Tanisha wants a gender reveal? Fine. I'll give her a reveal she won't soon forget, but first I need to make a call. Who to? Andre, I said. Daniel started the engine. It rumbled to life with a deep growl that mirrored the fire burning inside me. Let's move, he said. As we pulled away from the curb, I glanced back one last time at the mansion on the hill. Faint music and laughter drifted to me. They were celebrating on my dime, reveling in their deception. Enjoy the cake, Tanisha, I whispered, because it's the last thing you'll ever savor that I paid for. My home was usually my refuge, a sleek contemporary space in Midtown that Daniel and I had designed with the same care we applied to our careers. But tonight, the silence in the hallway felt heavy, like the eerie stillness before a storm. We had driven home in tense quiet, thick with unspoken words and plotting. I stepped into the kitchen and placed my phone on the marble island. It vibrated so forcefully against the stone, it made an irritating buzzing sound that grated on my frayed nerves. Don't look at it, Daniel said softly, heading over to the fridge for water. He appeared worn out. The anger from the car had cooled into a cold, steely determination, but I could see the strain in his eyes. I have to check, I said, my voice hollow in the vast room. I need to understand the narrative. In my job, you can't combat fraud if you don't know the story the embezzler is spinning. I picked up the phone. The screen was flooded with notifications, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'd been tagged in dozens of posts in the past 20 minutes. I opened Facebook first. The algorithm knew exactly what to show me. At the top of my feed was a live video. The red live icon blinked in the corner, and the viewer count was climbing by the hundreds. It was Tanisha. She sat in the same velvet throne chair I had rented for her. The party continued in the background, but the music had been lowered to a subdued, somber tone. She held a tissue to her eyes, dabbing at tears I knew were fake. Hey everyone, she sniffled, looking straight into the camera with wide, sorrowful eyes. I know everyone's wondering why the mood shifted so suddenly. I didn't want to say anything, but I feel I owe my true supporters an honest explanation. I gripped the edge of the counter. My true supporters. My closest friend Ella had left the party early. Tanisha's voice cracked perfectly on cue. It's been really tough. You all know she struggled with fertility. We all know how much she wanted a baby, and it just never happened for her. My breath caught. She was going there, using my miscarriage, the darkest, most painful moment of my life, as a shield for her fraud. I think seeing me so happy today with the twins was just too much for her. Tanisha sighed, glancing down at her fake silicone belly. She caused a scene, you guys, yelling at the staff, being aggressive with my sister-in-law, Becky. I tried to calm her down, but she just stormed out. She said she couldn't bear to look at me, said I didn't deserve this happiness. Comments were flooding in quickly along the side of the screen. Look at me, I said I didn't earn this joy. Comments flooded the side of the screen at a rapid pace. That's so toxic. Cut her out, sis. Jealousy's a sickness. Feel better soon. You don't need that negativity around the kids, poor Tanisha. You look overwhelmed, she ruined my whole day. Tanisha muttered as a single tear slipped down her flawless makeup. And the worst part? She canceled the catering payment on her way out. She left me with a $10,000 bill just to spite me. I don't know how we'll cover it. Andre's so stressed. It was a masterclass in manipulation. She took the truth, twisted it into a noose, and hung it around my neck. She wasn't just playing the victim. She was fundraising, setting the stage to ask for money to pay the bills I supposedly abandoned. I tossed the phone onto the counter. It slid across the marble surface and struck the fruit bowl. She's claiming I left because I'm jealous, I murmured. She says I'm bitter because my baby died. Daniel slammed his glass of water down hard enough to splash droplets onto the countertop. She's a sociopath, he said. Don't engage, Ella. It's bait. Before I could reply, the phone began to ring. The caller ID showed a photo of my mother holding her prize-winning orchids. I stared at it. She never called this late. Usually she was in bed by 9. Answer it, Daniel urged. Put it on speaker. We need to hear what they're saying. I pressed the green button. Hello, Mom. Ella Marie, I've never been so embarrassed in my entire life. My mother's voice was sharp and jarring through the speaker, loud and distorted. No greeting, no asking how I was, just immediate condemnation. Mom, what are you talking about? I asked, my hand shaking. Don't pretend you don't know, she snapped. Becky just called me from the bathroom. She's crying, Ella. Tears. She told me what you did. What I did? I echoed, a nervous laugh rising in my throat. And what exactly did Becky say I did? She said you were drunk, my mother accused. That you showed up at that elegant party in a work dress, looking a mess, and started drinking wine right away. She said she tried to help fix your makeup because you looked disheveled, and you threw a glass of red wine on her white dress, Ella. I shut my eyes. Of course, the wine spill. Becky had flipped the story. Mom, that's not true, I said, trying to keep calm. Becky spilled wine on me. She insulted me. She mocked my dress. Oh, cut it out, my mother interrupted. Always playing the victim, aren't you? Becky is a sweet girl. She's worked hard to be part of this family. And you've been cold to her from day one because you think you're better than everyone else. You think because you have a degree and a big house, you can look down on your brother's wife. I don't look down on her, Mom. I see right through her because she's a con artist, I said, my voice rising. Don't you dare use that word, my mother yelled. Dante's frantic. He said you promised to help pay for the rest of the party, then you ran off and left everyone with the bill. Do you realize how that makes us appear? We're supposed to be people of integrity. People of integrity? I repeated. Mom, Dante extorted $2,000 from me in the kitchen before the party even started, I said. He said it was for a gift, and you begrudge your own brother a little help. My mother scoffed. You have so much, Ella. God has blessed you financially, even if he hasn't in other ways. But you're greedy. You're incredibly fortunate, Ella. God has granted you financial blessings, even if he hasn't in other areas. But your greed is evident. You're clutching your money tightly while your family faces hardship, despite blessings in other aspects. The pain deepened. She was referring to the baby, to my barren womb. Tanisha played the sympathy card. My mother wielded it as a weapon of judgment. You must make this right, Mom insisted. Get back in your car immediately. Drive straight to that party. Apologize to Tanisha. Apologize to Becky. And settle that catering bill. If you refuse, don't bother coming to Sunday dinner. I won't tolerate a daughter who brings shame upon our family. I glanced at Daniel. He stood motionless, eyes glued to the phone, as if etching her words into memory. I'm not going back, Mom, I whispered, and I won't pay another dime. Then you're on your own, she said coldly, definitively. And don't expect Dante to forgive you easily. He's furious. The call ended. I collapsed onto a bar stool, my legs suddenly giving way. It was a coordinated strike. Tanisha attacking on social media, Becky rallying the family behind the scenes. They were isolating me, severing my support one by one, hoping I'd feel so alone and desperate that I'd cave and pay. My phone buzzed with a message. It was Dante. Ignoring my calls was a huge mistake, sis. The event planner's threatening to involve the police if the balance isn't settled. I told him to contact your workplace, told him you committed fraud. If you don't wire that $8,000 within 10 minutes, I'm going on LinkedIn, tagging every partner at your firm. I'll expose you as someone who leaves debts unpaid. I'll destroy your reputation, Ella. Pay the bill. He knew exactly where I was vulnerable. My career was my world. Reputation was everything. Even an unfounded fraud claim could trigger an investigation, could get me suspended. I grabbed my phone, thumbs hesitating over the screen. I opened my video library. My finger hovered over the clip of Tanisha removing her belly. I'm posting this, I declared, my voice trembling with adrenaline. Right now, I'll tag Dante. Mom, Tanisha sponsors. I'll burn it all down. I moved to tap send, but Daniel's hand reached out, covering mine. His grip was steady, warm, grounding. No, he said. I looked up, furious. Why not? Daniel, look at what they're doing. They're ruining me, spreading lies to the whole world. I have the truth right here. Let me drop the bomb. Not yet, Daniel said softly, easing the phone from my grasp. He set it face down on the counter. If you share that video now, Tanisha will twist the story, he said calmly, logically my anchor in the chaos. She'll claim it was a joke. They were just easing pressure from the belt, or worse, she'll say it's a deep fake. You know how easy it is to make that claim these days. And even if people believe her, what changes? She gets embarrassed, maybe loses some followers? She loses everything, I insisted. Does she? Daniel challenged. Or does she just amplify her victim act? Claim you invaded her privacy? Sue you for recording her in her bedroom without permission? And what about Andre? What about him, I asked. He's her husband. He's involved. No. Daniel shook his head. Watch the video again, Ella. Listen to how they talk about him. They call him a mark. They're laughing at him. He's clueless. Once again, Ella. Hear how they speak about him. They label him a sucker. They're mocking him. He's completely in the dark. If he catches wind of this on Facebook first, he might dismiss it or worse, alert her. He could give her the opportunity to stash away the assets she's planning to steal. Daniel paced the length of the island and then stopped in front of me, grasping both my hands firmly. You want revenge, Ella? I understand that. I want justice too, but you're a forensic accountant. You don't catch a crook by shouting at them in public. You catch them by sealing off the escape routes. You catch them by letting them believe they've slipped away until the cuffs snap shut. I inhaled deeply. He was right. He always nailed the strategy. My rage was like a wildfire, but what I needed was precision. Andre has to see this with his own eyes, Daniel said. He needs to be the one to put an end to her, because if he divorces her over fraud, she gets nothing. If we just expose her online, she might still walk away with a payout. We have to cut off the cash flow and recover your money. My $60,000. Or exactly. Daniel said, if you blow this up tonight, that money is gone for good. Dante spent it, Becky spent it, Tanisha spent it. The only way you get made whole is if we trap them. I glanced at the phone lying face down on the counter. It buzzed again. Another message from Dante, probably. Or maybe a Venmo request from Becky. So what's the plan? I asked. Do I just let them win tonight? Do I let them ruin my name? Let them chatter, Daniel said, his gaze steely and sharp. Let them dig their own graves. Let Tanisha believe she's won. Let Dante think he's frightened you. Let Becky think she's cleverer than you. It'll make them careless. They'll get cocky. And when they get cocky, they slip up. He nodded toward the hallway leading to my home office. Go to your office, Ella. Fire up your servers. Do what you do best. Trace the money. Find out where Dante blew your rent money. Discover how many credit cards Becky opened in your name. Uncover exactly how much debt Tanisha is hiding from Andre. Build the case. A shift stirred in my chest. The panic ebbed away, replaced by a cold, methodical focus. The same feeling I got when opening a fresh case file. When I stared at a chaotic spreadsheet and began to see the patterns emerge, I stood up. Smoothed the creases in my ruined silk dress. You're right, I said. I won't argue with them on Facebook. I won't beg my mother to forgive me. I headed toward my office, sensing Daniel's watchful presence behind me. My guardian. I stepped into the darkened room and tapped the space bar on my keyboard. The 3 monitors on my desk lit up, bathing the room in a cool blue glow. I settled into my ergonomic chair. It felt like the cockpit of a mission. I cracked my knuckles. All right, I whispered to the empty room. I logged into my professional software, pulled up background check databases, opened credit bureau portals, accessed banking trace tools. Dante threatened to destroy my reputation. He picked the wrong sister to mess with. He forgot my reputation is built on exposing those who think they can hide the truth in numbers. I typed in my brother's name, then my sister-in-law's, then Tanisha's. If they want to get dirty, I said, fingers flying across the keyboard, I'll show them what a forensic accountant can do when fueled by anger. I'm not just going to uncover skeletons in their closets. I'm going to make them dance. Anger drives people to extremes. I wasn't merely going to dig up dirt. I was going to make it come alive. The pale glow from my trio of monitors illuminated my face, casting a spectral, cool hue in the dimly lit office. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, trembling, not with fear, but fueled by a potent cocktail of caffeine and adrenaline. I took a sip of cold coffee and cracked my knuckles. It was time to dive in. Across from me, Daniel sat at his own station, the light from his screens reflecting off his glasses. He was using the old iPad Dante had borrowed half a year ago and never returned. Dante had claimed it was broken, wouldn't hold a charge, and dumped it on us to fix. Too lazy to retrieve it once we did, and too careless to realize he'd never signed out of his iCloud account. I started with the credit bureaus. In this line of work, you quickly learn that financial betrayals leave scars just as deep as physical ones. Logging into my personal credit monitoring service, a premium platform I use for clients, I expected to see my usual accounts: mortgage, car loan, primary credit cards. Instead, I found an intruder lurking in my financial identity. 3 new inquiries within the past 4 months, 3 new credit lines opened with Chase, Amex, and Discover. Together, they offered a $45,000 credit limit. I clicked on the application details. The address listed wasn't mine, it was a P.O. box. But the social security number? Mine. The mother's maiden name? Correct. Dante, my own brother. The kid I walked to school with, the man whose rent I covered when he got fired for sleeping on the job, had stolen my identity. He knew my social security number because I'd co-signed his car loan 3 years back. He exploited that trust to open credit cards in my name. A cold knot tightened in my gut. This wasn't just borrowing money. This was a serious crime, a federal offense. I pulled up the transaction history for the Amex card. It was nearly maxed out. Scrolling through, I expected to find cash advances or perhaps bills for his car. Instead, there was a procession of extravagance: $4,000 at Saks Fifth Avenue, $2,000 at Neiman Marcus, $3,000 at an upscale med spa in Buckhead. Then I paused at charges marked with a merchant code typically associated with medical services. The vendor was listed as Cryptic LH Wellness Group. $15,000 over 6 weeks. I frowned. Was Tanisha genuinely ill? Was there a medical issue they were hiding? I ran the vendor through my forensic database. It wasn't a clinic, not a doctor's office. LH Wellness Group was a shell company, a holding entity. Digging deeper through corporate registrations, I uncovered the doing business's name: Luxe Handbags and Resale. A luxury consignment store selling vintage Birkenstocks and exclusive Chanel. Matching the dates, I saw that on the day Tanisha supposedly had an emergency scan, the one I had paid $5,000 for using Becky's unauthorized card, there was a $5,000 charge at this shop. They were disguising lavish shopping sprees as medical emergencies. They knew if the credit card statement said Gucci, I'd ask questions. But if it appeared as a medical provider, I wouldn't dare challenge it. I wouldn't want to seem heartless questioning a pregnant woman's doctor bills. Becky had charged $15,000 for a wardrobe on my credit, masked as prenatal care. I printed the statement. Becky charged $15,000 to my credit card for a wardrobe, disguised as prenatal care. I printed the statement. The hum of the printer in the still room echoed like a judge's gavel. "Daniel," I said, my tone icy, "you have to see this." Dante had opened 3 credit cards using my name, and Becky was wrecking my credit score. Daniel didn't glance up. His eyes flicked over lines of code and log files on his screen. His expression was one of disgust. "That's only the beginning, Ella," he said. "You need to see this." I logged into the iPad. The backup had synced just 10 minutes earlier when he connected to his home Wi-Fi. I wheeled my chair beside him. He had a messaging app open, a group chat. The group's name made my stomach churn. The retirement plan. The members were Dante, Becky, and Tanisha. I began reading the earliest visible messages, dated 3 months ago. Tanisha, he fell for it. He actually cried when I showed him the ultrasound image. I grabbed it from Google Images and altered the name in Photoshop. Men are so gullible. "Becky, what about the accountant? Is she suspicious?" "Dante, Ella, please, she's desperate to be the cool auntie. I told her we were short on the nursery deposit and she wired $2,000 without hesitation. She feels guilty because she can't have kids." I flinched. Reading it stung worse than hearing it my brother, my own flesh and blood, mocking my infertility to his wife and my closest friend. Daniel reached out and squeezed my hand, steadying me. "Keep going," he urged. "Look at their plan for next month." I scrolled down. "Tanisha, we need to speed things up. Andre is talking about setting up a trust for the twins, but he wants his lawyer to manage it. I need him to sign the postnuptial agreement first, the one that guarantees me 50% of his liquid assets if something happens." "Becky, how do we make that something happen?" "Tanisha, I'm going to lose them at 7 months. It has to be late enough to be heartbreaking, but early enough so I don't have to fake a live birth. 7 months is perfect. It's the window for stillbirth." I covered my mouth. They were plotting a stillbirth. They planned to fake the death of children who never existed. The cruelty was devastating. It was pure evil. Dante, how do we make sure you get the payout, not just sympathy for Nisha? We blame the stress. I'll say Ella caused the scene. I'll claim she attacked me or caused an accident. Andre already thinks she's unstable because of jealousy. I'll tell him her toxicity raised my blood pressure and caused the placenta to detach. He'll be so furious he'll sign anything to comfort me and cut her out of his life. Becky, brilliant. And Ella will be so shattered she'll pay for the funeral. We can get that top-tier casket package and keep the rest. Tanisha, exactly. We retire off Andre's grief and Ella's guilt. We take the money to the Caymans and live like royalty. I stared at the screen, tears blurring my vision. They weren't just thieves, they were predators. They saw my life, my husband, my career, and Andre's success not as people, but as prey. They saw a nest egg to be plundered, and they planned to use my name to ruin Andre's life. They intended to frame me for the death of his imaginary children. They're going to blame me, I whispered, that they'll tell Andre I killed his babies. Daniel's voice was firm. Not if we reach him first. Me, I murmured. They're going to tell Andre I'm responsible for losing his babies. Daniel's tone was resolute. Not if we reach him first. Suddenly, a fresh message popped up at the bottom of the screen. It was live. It was unfolding right now. Dante, the party was a complete mess, but also perfect. Ella storming out makes her look unstable. Everyone's buzzing about it. Becky hasn't replied to the messages about the catering invoice. She's avoiding us. Tanisha's quiet because she's afraid. She knows she screwed up. She's probably at home sobbing to Daniel, trying to figure out how to fix this. We need to strike while she's vulnerable. I watched the typing indicator pulse as Tanisha prepared her next message. Tanisha, I'm heading to the hospital early tomorrow around 6 a.m. I'll claim severe cramps. I'll call Ella, crying. I'll tell her I'm terrified I'm losing the babies due to stress from the party. I'll say the specialist insists on a $10,000 deposit for emergency monitoring or they won't admit me. Becky, $10,000. Will she pay that? Tanisha, she'll pay anything to ease her guilt. She'll drive over in her pajamas and hand me a check just to stop me from crying. We'll have that cash by noon. Dante, perfect. That covers the BMW lease and the Miami trip next week. Tanisha, get some rest, everyone. Tomorrow's the big day. We've got a cash withdrawal to make. The chat went quiet. I leaned back in my chair. The glow from the monitors felt like a spotlight now. They're coming for me in the morning in 6 hours. They're planning to wake me with a lie about lost babies to extort $10,000. I checked the clock. Nearly midnight. I glanced over the pile of evidence we'd collected, the credit card scam, the luxury purse money laundering, the conspiracy to rob Andre, the emotional torment. I looked at Daniel. They want $10,000, I said. He nodded. That's their demand. I turned back to my laptop, opened a new tab, and logged into my bank account. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I declared. Daniel frowned. What, Ella, you can't pay them. I'm not going to pay them, I said, voice calm but fierce. I'm going to outsmart them. Tanisha wants a scene at the hospital. Fine, I'll give her a show. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to Andre's personal lawyer. I had his number from auditing Andre's business last year. It was late, but lawyers, they're always up. I'm going to the hospital tomorrow, I told Daniel. I'll be the most remorseful, terrified friend she's ever seen. I'll cry, I'll beg for forgiveness, and I'll write her that check. Why? Daniel asked. Why give them more money? Because, I said, sending a quick text to the lawyer for an urgent meeting, the size of the theft determines the jail time. Anything over $10,000 is a felony with a mandatory minimum sentence here. If I hand her that check and she cashes it, she crosses from petty con artist to serious criminal. I glanced at the group chat one last time. They call it the retirement plan. I said it's a fitting name because where they're headed, they won't be working for a very long time. I stood up. Get some sleep, Daniel. We have an early day. Tanisha's expecting a victim. I need to look the part. As I left the office, fatigue vanished. I felt alive, the cold, sharp focus of a hunter, dressed apart. As I stepped out of the office, every trace of exhaustion vanished. I felt alive, alert, and precise, like a predator on the hunt. They'd laid a snare for me, but they didn't realize they'd trapped themselves instead. Tomorrow morning at the hospital, I was going to seal the door shut. The automatic doors of St. Jude's private hospital slid open silently, ushering me into a lobby that smelled less like disinfectant and more like wealth and deception. This wasn't the emergency room where ordinary people waited hours with a broken arm. This was the VIP section, the kind of place where the registration forms ask for your favorite brand of sparkling water before your insurance details. I crossed the gleaming marble floor, clutching my purse close. Hidden in the leather lining behind a pack of tissues was a high-quality digital voice recorder. The tiny red light was covered with tape, but it was recording everything, each step, each breath, every falsehood. For the past hour, I'd rehearsed my expression in the bathroom mirror. I washed off my makeup, revealing the dark shadows under my eyes. My hair was pulled into a messy, frantic bun. I wore sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, the uniform of someone dragged from bed. By guilt and fear, I had to look shattered, defeated. Because if they sensed even a flicker of confidence, the trap would snap shut on me. I reached the elevators and pressed the button for the 4th floor, the maternity and high-risk observation unit. My heart pounded wildly against my chest, a frantic beat I tried to calm with slow, steady breaths. This was it, the performance of a lifetime. When the elevator doors parted, the hallway was silent, adorned with artwork worth more than my first apartment. I walked along, counting the room numbers, 42, 44, 46. And there she stood, the gatekeeper. Becky leaned against the wall outside room 408, arms crossed like a bouncer guarding a club no one wanted to enter. She wore yesterday's clothes, her hair slightly tousled, perfect for the worried sister-in-law role. When she spotted me, she pushed off the wall and stepped into my path, blocking the door. "You've got to be kidding," Becky hissed, her voice low and sharp. "You actually have the nerve to show your face here." After what you did, I stopped, letting my shoulders sag. My chin quivered. I summoned every shred of sorrow from losing my own baby, pouring it into this moment to make the tears real. "Becky, please." My voice broke, heavy with emotion. I had to come. Dante told me she was critical. He said the babies were in distress. Is she okay? Please tell me she's okay. Becky sneered, eyeing me with a mix of scorn and satisfaction. She loved seeing me like this, Ella. The polished, successful woman reduced to a pleading mess in sweatpants. "She's in terrible pain, Ella," Becky said, jabbing a manicured finger at me. Her blood pressure soared to dangerous levels. The doctors say it's preeclampsia triggered by severe emotional stress. Do you understand what that means? You nearly killed her. You almost killed those twins with your jealousy and your drama. I recoiled as if she'd struck me. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I never meant for any of this. I got overwhelmed at the party. I wasn't thinking." I murmured, "I never intended for any of this to happen. I got overwhelmed at the party. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You only ever care about yourself," Becky snapped. "That's your issue. You believe your money sets you apart, but you're simply a selfish, resentful woman who can't stand seeing others happy. Tanisha is in there fighting for her life because of you. Andre is a wreck. He hasn't stopped crying. Honestly, I don't think you deserve to share the same air as them right now." I reached into my purse, deliberately letting my hand tremble. I pulled out a thick white envelope. It was heavy. Inside were $2,000 in hundreds and fifties. It was the lure. "Becky, wait," I said, extending the envelope with unsteady fingers. "I realize I can't undo what happened yesterday, I know that. But Dante mentioned the insurance copay for the specialist was steep. He said they needed cash up front to upgrade to the private room." Becky's eyes flicked down to the envelope. The revulsion on her face didn't fade, but it was quickly replaced by a sharp, calculating gride. She didn't step away from the doorway, but her stance shifted. She leaned in closer. "What's this?" she asked, though she already knew. "It's $2,000, I whispered, pressing it into her palm. "It's for the doctors, tips, whatever Tanisha needs right now. Please, Becky, just take it. I want to help. I feel so guilty." Becky's fingers closed around the envelope. She squeezed it, feeling its thickness, counting mentally. A slow, pleased smirk spread across her lips. She slipped the envelope quickly into the pocket of her cardigan, making it vanish like a magic trick. "Well," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, condescending tone, "at least you're trying to make things right." "That's a start, Ella. It doesn't erase what you did, but it shows you grasp the seriousness of this. Money can't buy forgiveness, but it can cover the comforts Tanisha needs now." "May I see her?" I pleaded. "Just for a moment. I need to apologize to Andre. I need to see her with my own eyes." Becky hesitated, glancing at the door. Then she stepped aside, patting the pocket where my money now rested. "5 minutes," she warned. "And if you upset her, if your voice rises even slightly, I'll have security drag you out by your hair. Don't make me regret this mercy, Ella." "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you, Becky." I pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The blinds were closed, casting the suite in a dim, dramatic shadow. The only light came from the monitors beside the bed, their green and red lines tracing rhythms in the dark. Andre sat in a chair by the bedside, head in his hands. He looked shattered. His shoulders trembled silently. This was a man who built a construction empire, who negotiated million-dollar deals without flinching, now reduced to a wreck by the fear of losing children that weren't even real. And lying in the bed was Tanisha. She was connected to an IV drip. A blood pressure cuff was wrapped around her arm, and a fetal monitor strapped to her fake belly. Her eyes were closed, her head leaning back against the pillows, her face a mask of agony. It was a performance worthy of an award. I stood by the door for a moment, watching them. The anger I felt was icy and fierce. Look at what she was doing to him. Look at the torment she was causing her own husband just to secure a payoff. "Andre," I whispered. "Look at the anguish she inflicted on her own husband just to secure a payout." "Andre," I murmured softly. Andre's head shot up. His eyes were rimmed with red and puffy. When he caught sight of me, his face crumpled not with anger, but with despair. "Ella," he whispered, his voice breaking. I hurried over, dropping to my knees beside his chair and clasping his hands. "I'm so sorry, Andre, truly sorry. Is she all right? Are the babies okay?" "We don't know yet," Andre sobbed, gripping my hands tightly, almost painfully. "The doctors say her blood pressure is unstable. They're worried about the placenta. If she doesn't stabilize, they might have to perform an emergency C-section, but it's too soon, Ella. The babies are too small." He was repeating the lines she'd fed him, the group chat narrative. "I'll blame the stress. Tell him the placenta detached. Everything will be fine." I lied, hating myself for offering false hope, but knowing I had to keep up the act. "She's strong, Andre. The babies are fighters." A soft groan came from the bed. Tanisha slowly turned her head, blinking open her eyes. She looked at me, and for a brief moment I caught the calculating look in her gaze. She was sizing me up, my plain clothes, lack of makeup, the fear etched on my face. She saw a broken woman. She saw her victory. "Ella," she whispered weakly, her voice trembling. "Why are you here?" I rose and moved to her bedside. My eyes fell on the silicone bump strapped beneath her hospital gown. I wanted to tear it off, to expose her completely, but Daniel's voice echoed in my mind. "Seal the exits." "I'm here because I care about you, Tanisha," I said, tears streaming down, real tears of frustration and anger. "I'm here because I made a terrible mistake yesterday. I let my insecurities get the better of me. I ruined your day, and now you're here, and it's all my fault." Tanisha exhaled deeply, trembling. She reached for her water cup with a shaky hand, and Andre quickly helped, guiding the straw to her lips. She sipped and looked at me with the gaze of someone who has suffered. "It hurt me deeply, Ella," she said softly. "I needed you. I needed my best friend. But you made it all about yourself. You caused a scene in front of everyone. I felt my blood pressure rising when you yelled. I thought I was going to have a stroke." "I know," I wept, lowering my head. "I know I'm a terrible friend. I was jealous, Tanisha. Seeing you so happy, the nursery, the gifts, it reminded me of what I lost. And I snapped. I'm ashamed." Her expression softened into a smug, gracious forgiveness. She reached out and patted my hand. "I understand," she said. "It's hard for you. I know you can't help it. But you have to understand, my babies come first. I can't have that kind of negativity around them. I'll make it right I said, looking up at her with desperate eyes. I promise, Tanisha. I'll do whatever it takes to regain your trust. She studied me, waiting. Waiting for a proposal, waiting for payment. What can you do? She asked, her tone hardening slightly. This hospital stay is costly, Ella. The specialist alone is $5,000 and the stress. I'm not sure I can handle preparing for the delivery. I'm too weak. I stepped closer, leaning in to invade her personal space, bringing my face near hers so Andre, sitting on the other side, couldn't hear. I lowered my voice to a hush, conspiratorial whisper. Nearby, Andre sat across the room, out of earshot. I lowered my voice to a quiet murmur, a secretive whisper, the kind shared between best friends scheming to conquer the world. I'll take care of everything, I murmured. Listen, Tanisha. I want to throw you a gender reveal celebration, not just any gathering the event of the century. Tanisha's eyes flickered with interest. A gender reveal? Yes, I breathed, my voice trembling with fervent excitement. I want to make things right with you in front of everyone. I want to show the entire world my unwavering support. I'll book the botanical gardens, hire your favorite celebrity planner, invite everyone, Andre's business associates, Dante's connections, all of Atlanta's social elite. I saw the hunger spark behind her eyes. It was like watching a shark sense blood in the water, a grand party, an audience, a stage for her to perform. You'd really do that, she whispered back, her vulnerability momentarily forgotten. I'll cover every expense, venue, catering, media. I'll make you a star, Tanisha. You deserve to be honored. You deserve to shine. I want to give you the reveal you've always dreamed of. Just say you'll let me do this. Tell me you'll forgive me. Tanisha studied me. My desperation, my disheveled hair, my complete submission. She thought she'd won, thought she'd broken me entirely. She licked her lips. All right, she whispered. Okay, Ella, if it means that much to you, you can throw the party, but it must be flawless. Unlimited budget, I promised, and no cuts, I swear. She smiled that same smile from the video, the sly grin of the wolf among sheep. She nodded slowly, sinking back into the pillow, the picture of a tired but gracious queen. Thank you, Ella, she said loud enough for Andre to hear. I forgive you. I straightened and wiped my tears. Turning to Andre, I said, she's going to be fine, Andre. We'll make sure of it. I'll handle everything. Andre stood and embraced me, crying into my shoulder. Thank you, Ella. He wept. Thank you for being here. I don't know what we'd do without you. I hugged him back, glancing over his shoulder at Tanisha. She was already on her phone, probably messaging Becky, probably texting Dante. The trap's set. The catch is on the line, I said, patting Andre's back. Your family, Andre, I said, my voice steady and icy. And I always protect family. I pulled away. I needed to leave before I lost my composure. I'll start the preparations, I said. Get some rest, Tanisha. You've got a big day ahead. I exited the room. Becky lingered in the hallway, counting the cash in the envelope. She looked up as I passed, a smirk curling her lips. See? Becky said, was that so hard? Being decent isn't difficult, Ella. You just have to know your place. I walked past without a word. I didn't trust myself to speak. I moved down the corridor, past the expensive artwork, past the nurse's station, and into the elevator. As the doors closed around me, isolating me in the small metal box, I released a long, shaky breath. I reached inside my bra and clicked off the recorder. I had the bribe, I had the emotional leverage, I had the agreement, and most importantly, I had the date. She wanted a party. She wanted to shine. Leaning my head against the cool elevator wall, I closed my eyes. Oh, Tanisha, I thought, you're going to shine. Fine, I'm going to light you up like a Roman candle. Eyes. Oh, Tanisha, I thought, you're destined to glow. Very well, I'm going to ignite you like a Roman candle. And when the smoke fades, nothing will remain but ashes. 2 days after the hospital show, I found myself tucked away in the rear corner of a cafe called The Daily Grind. It sat in an industrial park a few towns beyond Buckhead. This was the kind of spot where weary truckers and laborers stopped for their morning jolt of caffeine before starting their shifts. It was not the usual haunt for Andre. He preferred single-origin beans and oat milk lattes served in ceramic mugs. But today he agreed to meet me here because I insisted it was the only place we could talk without prying eyes. I'd arrived half an hour early. With my back against the wall, I faced the entrance. On the worn wooden table before me lay a thick manila folder. It seemed harmless, like tax documents or a lease contract. Yet inside was the autopsy of a marriage, the documented trail of a betrayal so profound it made my own heartbreak feel like a mere paper cut. When Andre entered, the bell above the door chimed brightly, a sharp contrast to the storm cloud shadowing his face. He looked awful, dressed in a tracksuit, which was unheard of for him on a Tuesday. His eyes were bloodshot, and his complexion had a grayish pallor, signs of sleepless nights and missed meals. Spotting me, his jaw clenched tight. Without a word, he slid into the booth opposite me. "You've got 5 minutes," Andre said, his voice rough and strained. "I shouldn't even be here. Tanisha's at home on bed rest because of you. She's terrified you'll try to harm the babies again. She told me not to talk to you, but I needed to hear it from you directly." "Hear what, Andre?" I responded quietly but firmly. "Say you're sorry," he snapped. "Say you'll cover the bills you abandoned. Say you'll leave us alone." "Tanisha's fragile, Ella. Do you understand what stress does to a high-risk pregnancy?" I looked at him. The man I'd known for 5 years. A good man, generous, kind. He'd built a logistics company from scratch with his own hands, sharp in business, but when it came to his wife, he was blind. So desperate to become a father, he'd shut down his critical thinking. "I'm not going to say any of that, Andre," I replied, "and I'm not paying those bills." He rose abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Then I'm done here. My lawyer will be in touch about the harassment." "Sit down, Andre," I ordered. My tone was calm but carried the weight of a judge's gavel. "You need to see what's in this folder. If you leave now, you'll lose everything: your business, your home, your future." He hesitated, glancing at the exit, then back at me. Fear and curiosity battled in his eyes. Slowly, he lowered himself back into the seat but remained tense. "What is this?" he asked. "May more lies?" "Tanisha said you might try to make things up. She said you're obsessed with her." I didn't respond to the accusation. Instead, I slid the folder across the sticky table. "Open it," I said. He stared down at the folder for a long moment before flipping it open. The first page was a spreadsheet I had put together, a forensic breakdown of his household spending over the past 6 months. But it wasn't the numbers that mattered, it was the names. I watched his eyes scan the pages carefully. For months, the numbers weren't what caught my attention, it was the names. I saw his eyes carefully comb through the pages. He furrowed his brow. "What is this?" he asked. "These are credit card bills. This card is the one I gave Tanisha for baby expenses." "Take a closer look," I urged. He squinted at the authorized user line. "Becky, why is Dante's wife on my credit card?" "Because Tanisha added her," I told him. "And check out the charges, Andre. Pay attention to the dates." His finger traced down the list. Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Saks Fifth Avenue. Each date matched exactly with the days Tanisha claimed she was at doctor appointments, days she said she was too ill to get out of bed. "She told me these were medical bills," he murmured. "She said insurance was slow to reimburse us. She said it was for specialists." "There's no specialist," I said quietly. LH Wellness Group is a shell company registered under Becky's name. It's a front for a luxury goods reseller. They're buying designer bags with your money and selling them for cash. He shook his head in disbelief. No, she wouldn't do that. She's nesting. Maybe she got mixed up. Maybe Becky stole the card." "Turn the page," I said. He flipped it over. This was the real blow. It wasn't some spreadsheet. It was a screenshot from the group chat. Daniel and I recovered from Dante's iPad, dated 2 days before the baby shower. The image showed Tanisha holding a positive pregnancy test, but the caption didn't say, "We're so blessed." Instead, the message read, "He's such a gullible fool." I printed this test online and taped it to a stick I peed on. He cried like a baby. I've never seen a grown man look so pathetic. Once he signs the post-nup amendment handing me the liquid assets, I'm going to squeeze every penny out of this. The twins will need a lavish nursery before they vanish. I watched Andre read the message, saw his mind struggle to deny it, to find any excuse. Then he noticed the timestamp in Becky's reply. "Lowell, he's a mark. Secure the bag, sis." And Tanisha's response? "His ego is only outmatched by his stupidity." Can't wait until I don't have to fake liking his cooking or him. Andre made a sound I'll never forget. It wasn't a sob, it was the sound of a lung collapsing, air draining from his world. He let the paper fall. His hands trembled so violently he gripped the table's edge to steady himself. "She said that," he whispered, voice cracking. "She called me a mark. She's been scheming for months." I reached across the table without touching him. He needed to feel this. He needed the pain to burn away denial. "She's not just draining your funds," I said. "She's liquidating your life. That post-nuptial agreement she's pushing, the one she claims is for the baby's protection." He nodded, vacant. "She said it was standard. Her lawyer recommended it because of the high-risk pregnancy." "It's a trap," I said. "It transfers half your company's operating capital into a trust under her name if anything happens medically to the children. And Andre, something will happen. She's planning a miscarriage." His face shifted from pale to deep purple. Veins bulged in his neck. The sadness vanished, replaced by a blinding, white-hot fury. He slammed to his feet so hard the table shook, sending coffee splashing over my cup's rim. "I'm going to kill her," he growled. His feet pounded the floor with such force that the table trembled, causing coffee to spill over the edge of my cup. "I'm going to destroy her," he snarled. "I'm heading over right now. I'll drag her out of that bed and throw her out on the street." He spun around, ready to storm off. "Andre, wait!" I called out, rising to block his way. "Move aside, Ella," he snapped, eyes blazing. "She's in my house. She's lying in my bed, mocking me. I won't let her get away with this for another second." "If you go there now, you lose," I warned, gripping his shoulder and shaking him. "Listen carefully. You lose everything." He tried to push past me, but I stood my ground. "Think, Andre," I whispered urgently. "Think about the law. To everyone else, she's a pregnant woman on bed rest. If you burst in yelling and throw her out, do you know what happens? She calls the cops. She claims you attacked her. She blames your stress for a miscarriage. So what if he raised his voice? It's all lies, but you can't prove that yet," I continued. "Not to a judge, not today. If you kick her out, she sues for divorce. She gets alimony, half the house, sympathy from every judge in Atlanta because you abandoned your pregnant wife. Do you want to pay her for the rest of your life? Send checks to the woman who called you an idiot every month for 20 years? Andre stopped struggling. He slumped against the coffee shop wall, gasping for breath. "She's faking the pregnancy, isn't she?" he asked, looking at me with desperate eyes. "Tell me the truth, Ella. There are no babies." I took a steadying breath. This was the moment. I could reveal the video of the fake belly, but if I did, he might lose control again. I needed him calm. I needed him focused. "There are no babies, Andre," I said gently. "It's a moon bump, a silicone prosthetic. She takes it off when you're not watching." He slid down the wall until he was crouched on the floor, head in his hands. He cried. He mourned the children he believed he was going to have. He grieved the nursery he'd painted, the names he'd chosen. I stood watch over him, shielding him from the barista's gaze. I let him cry. He had to mourn the future he imagined before he could fight for the one he deserved. After a few minutes, he grew silent. He wiped his face with his sleeve and stood. When he looked at me, the tears were gone. His eyes were dry and sharp, like steel. "She takes it off?" he asked, his voice empty of feeling. "Yes," I said. "And Becky knows, and Dante. They're all involved, sharing the money." Andre nodded slowly. He adjusted his tracksuit and straightened his hair. He looked like a man building armor. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "You didn't bring me here just to break my heart, Ella. You have a plan." "I do," I said. I picked up the folder and handed it to him. "Keep this. Give it to your lawyer. Tell him to prepare a divorce petition based on fraud, but don't file it yet. We need one more thing." "What's that?" "We need public proof," I said. "Something so clear, so humiliating she can't deny it. We have to catch her red-handed in front of witnesses." "The party," he said, understanding the gender reveal. "Exactly," they said. "She wants a spectacle. The biggest party Atlanta has ever seen. She wants to invite your investors, your partners, your enemies. She wants to cement her place as the queen of Buckhead." "She asked me for $50,000 for it," Andre said. "She said she wanted to hire a celebrity host." "Give it to her," I said. "Give her whatever she wants. Let her build the stage." Bring in a famous host. Give her free reign, I said. Grant her every demand, let her design the stage. Let her assemble the crowd, because once that curtain rises, it's us who are truly orchestrating the event. Andre's gaze sharpened. You want me to fake it? He asked. You expect me to go home, kiss her, caress that fake belly, and tell her I love her? I want you to be the finest actor alive, I replied. Be the devoted husband. Be the proud father. Make her feel so protected, so secure, that she drops her defenses. Make her believe she's won, because when she thinks she's won, she lowers her guard. And then, Andre pressed, I'll need access to the venue's AV system. You have to ensure Daniel and I are the ones managing the technology. Can you handle that? Andre nodded slowly. A grim, shadowy smile crossed his face, not one of joy, but of a man ready to destroy his own home to exterminate the pests. I can do that, he said. I'll tell her I want to surprise her with a special video highlighting our relationship. She's so vain she'll eat it up. Perfect, I said. Andre looked at me. Why are you doing this, Ella? He asked. They hurt you too. You could have walked away. You could have let me discover this on my own. I thought about the money they'd stolen from me, the insults hurled my way, but mostly I remembered the look Tanisha gave me in the hospital bed, the way she wielded my love for her like a weapon. Because, I said, she made a fatal error, Andre. She thought I was weak. She saw me as just a wallet. She forgot that before I was her friend, I was a woman who built her career uncovering the truth. I extended my hand. Are we allies? Andre gripped my hand firmly, almost crushing it. Allies, he agreed. He glanced at his watch. I need to go home, he said. Make my wife some soup. Tell her how much I love our children. He headed for the door, then paused and turned back. Ella. Yes? Make sure the projector's bright, he said. I want everyone in the back row to see the true colors of her soul. I smiled. Don't worry, Andre. It'll be crystal clear. He stepped out into the sunlight as I sank back into the booth, taking a sip of my cold coffee. Bitter, yes, but the finest drink I'd ever tasted. The alliance was sealed, the trap was laid. Now we just had to wait for the mouse to take the bait. The week before the gender reveal party became a lesson in submission. I had to become the version of myself they expected. Broken, desperate, eager to please, the doormat they'd spent years shaping me into. It was the toughest role I've ever played because every fiber of my being wanted to fight back. Every time Becky sneered or Dante demanded money, my hand twitched to grab my phone and expose them instantly. But I held back. I kept my eyes on the goal. I kept picturing the moment the lights would dim and the truth would shine. Monday started with the venue. Tanisha insisted on the Starlight Garden, a sprawling private estate in Buckhead with a $15,000 gate fee. She wanted it because of the massive outdoor LED screen usually reserved for concerts. She wanted her baby's gender revealed like the final score of the Super Bowl. I sat in my home office, Daniel standing behind me with his hand resting on my shoulder as I opened the wire transfer page. $15,000, an outrageous sum to spend on a deception. Do it, Daniel said quietly. Scene. The wire transfer screen. $15,000, a staggering amount to spend on a ruse. Go ahead, Daniel whispered. It's secure, I typed in the routing number. But instead of sending it to Starlight Garden's main account, I directed the funds to a company named Zenith Audio Visual, specifically to Tanisha and Becky at Zenith AV. It appeared to be just another upscale vendor, the exclusive production partner for the estate. But Zenith AV was a front. It was a limited liability company Daniel had set up 3 years prior for consulting purposes. Over the weekend, we had created a fake website filled with stock images of elegant events and fabricated testimonials. We had funneled the venue contract through this entity. By paying Zenith, I wasn't merely covering the venue fee, I was securing complete control. This meant that on the party day, the sound system, lighting setup, and most crucially, the enormous 60-foot LED screen would be managed by technicians on Daniel's payroll. We weren't just guests, we were orchestrating the entire event. I pressed send. The money left my account. I took a screenshot of the confirmation and messaged it to Tanisha. Done. The venue was locked in. They replied, "We have full access to the screens." Her next message popped up within 10 seconds. Finally, make sure the confetti cannons are ready. And Ella, don't be late with the remaining payments. My stress is through the roof today. I set my phone down and exhaled deeply. One trap was set, 2 more to go. Wednesday brought Becky's call. She rang me at work, her voice soaked with that insincere sweetness she used when angling for something. She explained that as the sister-in-law and future aunt, she needed to look the part. She had decided she'd be the master of ceremonies for the reveal. She'd hold the microphone, command the stage, and needed a dress that projected authority. I met her at Phipps Plaza, Atlanta's priciest mall. She waited outside Neiman Marcus, tapping impatiently in shoes I knew had been purchased with my stolen credit card. "You're late," she snapped, checking her watch. "Sorry, Becky," I mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "Traffic was bad." She rolled her eyes. "You always have an excuse. Come on, the personal shopper is waiting." For the next 2 hours, I sat on a plush velvet ottoman, watching Becky try on gowns more expensive than my first car. She twirled in front of the mirror, longing, critiquing the staff. She treated the sales associates like servants, snapping her fingers for different sizes. Finally, she chose a floor-length gold sequined gown. It was bold, it was gaudy, it cost $3,000. "It fits perfectly," she said, admiring herself. "It says royalty, right? Tanisha is the queen, but I'm the queen's right hand. I have to look important." "You look stunning, Becky," I lied. She turned, eyes icy. "You know, Ella, it's good you're doing this. Shows you're finally knowing your place. For a while, I thought you believed you were better than us just because you went to school and married some tech guy. But water finds its level, doesn't it? You're finally realizing you're just support staff in this family." Heat flushed my cheeks. I clenched my fist to stop from striking her. "I just want Tanisha to be happy," I whispered. "Good," she said. "Then pay the lady and get the matching shoes. I'm not wearing old shoes with this dress." I walked to the counter and handed over my card. Context, matching footwear. I'm not pairing this dress with worn-out shoes. I approached the register and handed over my card. The total, including tax and the shoes, was $3,800. I signed the receipt. As we exited the shop, Becky, lugging the huge garment bag, whispered close to me, "Don't think this gets you a front row spot. You're still stuck at the back with the rest of the staff. I just want you to look decent back there. We don't want you making us look bad." I watched her stride away, hips swaying, head held high. She believed she was royalty. Little did she know she was just dressed in an extremely pricey prison uniform. Later, I went home and filed the receipt into my evidence folder. I scanned it, highlighted the date, and added it to the spreadsheet labeled restitution. Friday brought Dante. At 7 a.m., he showed up at my door, pounding like law enforcement. I answered in my robe, holding a coffee. Without asking, he barged in, headed straight to the kitchen, and opened the fridge. "No orange juice," he grumbled, grabbing a soda instead. "Good morning, Dante," I said, closing the door behind me. "What do you want?" "I need a car," he replied, popping the soda tab. "Excuse me?" "A car, Ella. A ride. Tanisha's got all these appointments now. The high-risk specialist, physical therapy for her back. Andre's tied up at work, trying to cover everything since you dropped out on the medical bills. Someone's got to drive her, and that someone is you." I asked. "Dante?" He puffed up his chest. "I'm her brother-in-law. I'm stepping up. But my BMW is in the shop. I need something reliable, safe for the twins." He pulled out a folded stack of papers from his jacket and slammed them on the kitchen island. "I found a Range Rover," he said, "used but clean, low mileage. The dealer can get it to me today, but my credit is, well, recovering." Recovering, that was a polite way to say. His credit score was in the low 400s because he never paid bills on time. "I need a co-signer," he said. I studied the papers. It was a lease contract, monthly payments of $1,200 for 36 months. "Dante," I said, steadying my voice, "I can't take on another car payment. If you miss payments, they come after me." "I won't default," he shouted, pounding the counter. "Why do you always think I'll fail? This is for Tanisha, for the babies. Do you want them taking Ubers to the hospital? Do you want them riding unsafe?" He was reciting the same lines they always did: guilt, family duty, the imaginary kids. "Fine," I whispered, slumping in defeat. "Fine, Dante, I'll sign. But you have to promise to make the payments." "I promise," he said, his tone shifting from angry to charming. "Don't worry, sis. I've got a big deal next month. I'll refinance it out of your name fast." I reached into the junk drawer by the sink, my hand brushing past real pens and markers, grabbing the blue gel pen Daniel brought home yesterday. It looked like a typical Pilot G2. It wrote smoothly with vibrant blue ink, except it wasn't ordinary ink. It was a chemical compound made for security testing, designed to oxidize and disappear completely within 48 hours of air exposure. Leaning over the counter, I signed the cosigner line with a flourish and dated it. After 2 full days exposed to the open air, I leaned over the countertop, signed the cosigner line with a flourish and dated the document. "There," I said, capping the pen and sliding the papers back to him. "Go grab the car, Dante. Look after Tanisha." He smiled widely, snatching the papers. "You did the right thing, Ella. Finally, maybe there's hope for you yet." Then he dashed out the door, so thrilled to pick up his new ride that he didn't even say goodbye. I watched him drive off. In just 2 days, he'd be behind the wheel of that Range Rover, showing it off to his friends, picking up Becky. But when the dealership opened their files Monday morning to finalize the registration, they'd find a contract missing a signature. They'd repossess the vehicle. He'd be flagged for fraud. I poured my cold coffee down the drain. All the pieces were set. I'd paid for the venue, which meant we controlled the technology. I'd bought the dress, ensuring Becky would stand center stage under a spotlight I funded. I'd signed the lease, meaning Dante would be driving a stolen car to the event. They were all so sure, intoxicated by their own triumph. They thought they'd broken me. They thought I was their endless resource. Saturday night, I sat on my couch with Daniel. The house was silent. We weren't working on the case anymore. The file was complete. The presentation was ready. The video was rendered and saved on a secure drive. My phone buzzed. It was Tanisha. "Hey, bestie, just doing a final check for tomorrow. I'm so excited. I feel like this is going to be our fresh start." I stared at the screen. The nerve was staggering. She was texting me about a fresh start while plotting to frame me for a miscarriage next week. Then another message appeared. "One last thing for the big reveal. I told Andre it's a boy. He's obsessed with having a son. But I want the smoke to be blue. Like electric blue. I want it to fill the entire stage. Make sure the cannon is loaded. Okay, don't mess this up. He needs to see blue." She was lying to him, even about the lie. She probably hadn't even decided the fake baby's gender until moments ago. She just wanted whatever would make Andre open his wallet wider. I typed my response. My fingers moved confidently. "Don't worry, Tanisha. I handled the cannons personally. The color will be unforgettable." I hit send and looked at Daniel. "Is everything ready?" He nodded. "The projector is 4,000 lumens. The sound system is concert quality. When we play it, they'll hear it miles away." I leaned back into the couch. "Blue smoke," I whispered. "She wants blue smoke." "Well," Daniel said, flashing the sharp, dark smile, "she's going to get the truth instead. And the truth, Ella, is usually pretty black and white." We went to bed early. We needed rest. Tomorrow was a big day. Tomorrow we were going to a party, and I had a feeling it was going to be unforgettable. The air at Starlight Garden smelled of jasmine, luxury perfume, and old money. The humidity was the kind that usually frizzed hair and frayed nerves. But here, beneath the canopy of century-old oaks wrapped in fairy lights, even the weather seemed to bow to the occasion. I stood at the edge of the manicured lawn, holding a tray of crystal flutes I wasn't meant to carry, watching the scene I'd paid for unfold. 100 of Atlanta's elite mingled. There were Andre's business partners in tailored suits discussing market shares and golf handicaps. 100 of Atlanta's finest gathered and mingled. Andre's business associates, dressed sharply in custom suits, exchanged talk of market shares and golf scores. Then there were Tanisha's influencer friends women, who lived much of their lives through smartphone screens, posing against the floral backdrop I'd rented for $4,000. And of course, there was Becky. Impossible to overlook, her gold-sequined gown caught the light from the chandeliers hanging in the trees, making her shine like a disco ball with a fierce attitude. She moved confidently through the crowd, a glass of champagne in one hand and a wireless microphone in the other, acting as the unofficial director of the night. "Ella," Becky's voice sliced through the smooth jazz, playing in the background like a serrated blade. She snapped her fingers at me from across the patio. I forced a submissive expression and made my way over. "Yes, Becky?" I asked. "Look at that centerpiece on table 4, she said, pointing with a perfectly manicured nail. "The hydrangeas are drooping. It looks cheap. Fix it and try to look a little more cheerful. You're killing the vibe with that face." I glanced at the flowers. They looked perfectly fresh. "I'll take care of it, Becky," I said softly. "Good," she sniffed. "And make sure the caterers are ready with the appetizers. Tanisha will be here any minute and she needs to eat. She's eating for 3, remember?" I turned away, my heels sinking gently into the grass. I wasn't going to touch the flowers. I was headed for the tech booth. But before I could get there, a heavy hand landed on my shoulder. I turned to see my brother Dante, wearing a white linen suit a size too tight, grinning like he just hit the jackpot. "Did you see it?" he asked, motioning toward the valet stand. "See what? The range?" I said, puffing up. "The valet parked it right up front. They know a boss when they see one. That car drives like a dream, Ella. Smooth, powerful, just like me." I looked at him, my brother, the man who'd stolen my identity, currently driving a vehicle he had no right to because the lease he signed was basically invisible ink. "It's a nice ride, Dante. Enjoy it while it lasts." "Oh, I intend to," he laughed, missing the hint completely. "I'm thinking of driving it to Miami next week for the guys' trip. Tanisha said she might need me there for support, just in case. Just in case she needs someone to help fake a miscarriage, I thought. There's my handsome boy." My mother's voice boomed across the lawn. She swept in wearing a floral dress and a wide-brimmed hat, the very picture of a proud matriarch. She passed right by me without a glance and wrapped Dante in a hug. "You look so successful, Dante," she said warmly. "I saw the car out front. Told your father that's my son. That's the ambition I raised." Dante grinned. "Thanks, Ma. Just making moves, "And Becky," my mother exclaimed, eyes locking on the gold sequins. "You look stunning, darling. That dress was made for you. You look like hostess of the year." "Thank you, Mom," Becky beamed, joining the circle of praise. "It's a lot of work putting on an event like this. But someone has to step up. Tanisha needs strong women around her right now." Finally, my mother turned her gaze to me. Her eyes scanned my simple black dress, the same one I wore to meetings. "Oh, Ella," she said flatly. "You're here. I assume you handled the parking. The valet line was a bit long." "I handled everything, Mom," I replied. "Setting the scene? I figure you managed the parking situation. The valet queue was pretty long." "I took care of everything, Mom," I assured her. "All right, just try not to draw attention to yourself," she said, turning away to fix Dante's lapel. "We want the photos to look polished and unified." I lingered there briefly, observing them. My family, they appeared so joyful. They carried themselves with unwavering confidence in their superiority. They assumed I was the help. They thought I handled the finances. Little did they know I was the one delivering judgment. A silence swept over the guests. The music swelled into a dramatic climax. The grand double doors of the estate swung open. Tanisha emerged, a stunning figure in regal blue. Her gown was custom designed, expertly crafted to highlight the pronounced curve of her abdomen. And what a belly it was. The premium silicone prosthetic I discovered on her credit card statement for $5,000. It featured lifelike skin texture, a belly button, and was weighted to move naturally. She cradled it gently with both hands, as if it were a precious artifact. The crowd gasped, then applauded. Tanisha paused at the top of the staircase, savoring the moment. She tilted her head back, beaming serenely, embodying the radiant, miraculous, expectant mother. She descended the stairs with deliberate care, mimicking the gentle waddle of a mother-to-be carrying twins. Andre awaited her at the bottom. He looked impeccable in his tuxedo, but I knew the truth, lurking beneath that composed facade. Our eyes met briefly. He gave a subtle nod. He took Tanisha's hand and kissed it. Then he guided her through the parted guests toward the stage we had set up at the garden's far end. Behind the stage stood the massive LED screen I had financed. It displayed a continuous loop of twinkling stars and floating hearts in shades of blue and pink. Tanisha ascended the steps, settling onto a plush love seat arranged just for her. Becky hurried over to adjust her dress and offered a bottle of water, playing the role of devoted lady in waiting. Becky grabbed the microphone. Welcome, everyone, she called out, her voice ringing through the trees. Thank you so much for joining us at this royal reveal. We're thrilled to celebrate Tanisha and Andre and the two little princes or princesses about to grace our lives. The crowd erupted in cheers. Before the big reveal, Becky continued, let me invite the father of the year, the man of the hour, Andre, to share a few words. Andre stepped forward to the microphone. He scanned the crowd of faces. His gaze landed on Dante, leisurely sipping a scotch he hadn't paid for. Then on my mother, beaming at Tanisha. Finally on Tanisha herself, tenderly rubbing her fake belly and smiling up at him with a look of pure, calculated triumph. She believed she had him fooled. She thought he was the mark. Thank you, Becky, Andre began, his voice calm, deep and steady. He turned toward Tanisha. Tanisha, he said, voice thick with feeling. When you told me we were expecting, my world changed. I've longed to be a father for so long. And when you said it was twins, I felt like the luckiest man in Atlanta. Tanisha dabbed a stage tear from her eye. The crowd murmured in heartfelt wonder. We've faced many challenges to reach this point, Andre continued. There were scares, long nights at the hospital, countless expenses, but you always reminded me that family is worth every sacrifice. Turning back to the audience, he added, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Special thanks to Dante and Becky for their unwavering support. Dante lifted his glass with an air of arrogance and oblivion. Appreciation goes to Dante and Becky for their steadfast encouragement. Dante lifted his glass with a smug, oblivious air. But primarily, Andre said, scanning the audience until his gaze landed on me near the tech setup. Primarily, I want to express my gratitude to Ella. All eyes turned my way. Becky's brow furrowed. Tanisha tensed slightly on her throne. Ella has been more than just a companion, Andre continued. She's been a lifeline. She attended every doctor's visit she could. She stepped in financially when we were struggling. She's the only person who truly understood what was unfolding at home. She is my closest friend, and without her, tonight wouldn't be happening. Tanisha's smile was strained, her eyes darting nervously around. This wasn't part of the plan. Why was he lauding me? I was supposed to be the antagonist, the envious, childless friend he merely tolerated. Andre turned back to Tanisha. So, my dear, he said, are you prepared to hear the truth? Yes, Tanisha squealed, clapping eagerly, desperate to reclaim the spotlight. I am ready. Andre glanced skyward. We have a special surprise this evening, he declared. No ordinary balloons for us. The stage is rigged with smoke cannons and the city's largest screen. When the countdown reaches 0, the sky will glow with the color of our destiny. He gestured toward the tech booth, where I now stood. Looking inside, I saw Daniel at the controls, his fingers hovering over the launch button. He met my eyes. I gave a subtle nod. All right, everyone, Becky called into her mic. Let's count down together. 10, the crowd roared. 9. Tanisha gripped Andre's hand tightly, trembling in anticipation, dreaming of the post-nuptial agreement, the fortune to come. 8. My mother applauded, beaming. Dante recorded on his phone, ready to share the moment. 7. I stepped closer to the stage, eager for a front-row view. 6. Andre released Tanisha's hand and stepped back, avoiding the area where smoke would burst forth. 4. Tanisha closed her eyes, picturing blue smoke blue for sons, the heirs to her wealth. 2, 1, 0. Tanisha threw her arms skyward, shrieking in joy. But there was no explosion, no smoke. The cannon stayed silent. The crowd grew quiet, puzzled. Then a ripping sound blasted through the speakers. Not music, not celebration, just a loud tearing of Velcro, amplified like at a concert. Rip. Tanisha's eyes snapped open. She glanced around, bewildered. Then the massive LED screen behind her, which had been covered with floating hearts, went dark. Moments later, it flickered back on, but no pink or blue colors. Instead, it showed a bedroom. The grainy footage was enormous, 60 feet wide, crystal clear. On screen, a giant Tanisha stood beside a bed. Beside her, a giant Becky sat. Slowly, shockingly, the enormous Tanisha reached beneath her dress. The ripping Velcro sound echoed again. perfectly timed with the video. The crowd gasped in unison, the breath collectively sucked from the garden. On screen, Tanisha peeled away a huge silicone belly. "Oh God, that's better," the Tanisha on screen moaned, her voice booming through the speakers, the bass shaking the ground. "It's so hot in that thing." On stage, the real Tanisha was frozen, her arms still raised, her mouth agape. "It's unbearably hot inside that thing." On stage, the real Tanisha stood motionless, her arms raised, mouth wide open. Slowly, she turned to face the screen behind her. There she was, clutching her own stomach. She saw Becky handing her a vodka bottle. "You're brilliant, Tanisha." The screen showed it all. Becky's mocking laughter was cutting and cruel. "Look at them out there. Andre's weeping over baby shoes and Ella's running around like a frantic chicken." The genuine Becky dropped her microphone. It slammed onto the stage, releasing a deafening feedback screech. My mother, sitting front row, pressed a hand over her heart, her face drained of color. Dante lowered his phone, mouth agape. That clueless Ella just wired Dante $2,000. The screen, Tanisha boasted, taking a gulp of vodka. "That's our spa money." The audience stirred. Whispers blossomed into a roar. Finger pointed, laughter erupted. Shock and disbelief rippled through the crowd. On stage, Tanisha let out a piercing scream. Not one of happiness, but a primal cry of a trapped creature. "Turn it off," she yelled, lunging toward the screen as if she could stop the images from playing. "Turn it off. It's not real. It's AI. Turn it off." She dashed toward the back of the stage, toward the cables, but Andre blocked her path. No longer the adoring husband, he stood rigid, expression cold as stone. He extended his foot. Panicked and blinded by the voluminous folds of her gown, Tanisha didn't see it. She stumbled, fell hard onto the stage floor, then gravity took its course. The force knocked loose the straps of the deluxe silicone prosthetic I had paid for. It popped free before the eyes of Atlanta's most powerful 100. Tanisha's fake pregnant belly slipped out from beneath her dress, rolling across the stage like a stray basketball. It bounced once, twice, then came to rest at my mother's feet. She stared down at the smooth, flesh-toned, lifeless silicone form. The video kept playing. "I will miscarry next week," the giant Tanisha announced. "I'll blame it on stress caused by Ella." The garden fell into a deep, suffocating silence, the silence of a grave. Then from the tech booth, Daniel cranked the volume all the way up. Becky raised her glass in a toast to the twins, the unseen heirs to their empire. The video froze on that moment. Becky laughing, Tanisha drinking, the fake belly lying on the bed. I stepped out from the shadows of the tech booth onto the grass. I looked up at the stage. Tanisha was scrambling backward, trying to hide her flat stomach with her hands. Becky stood frozen, searching for an escape. Andre loomed over them, grim as Judgment Day. I lifted my champagne glass. "It's a boy," I declared, my voice slicing through the stunned silence. Or maybe it's a felony. The 60-foot screen kept rolling, broadcasting the intimate betrayal in vivid detail to every corner of Starlight Garden. Tanisha's act of peeling off her belly was burned into every guest's eyes, but it was Becky's voice echoing through the speakers that held them captive. The surround sound, meant for lively party tunes, now filled the humid Atlanta air with Becky's mocking laughter. "Look at them out there," the screen Becky sneered, swirling her wine. "Andre's crying over baby shoes, and Ella's running around like a headless chicken, paying for everything." She curled her lip, swirling her wine glass. "Andre's sobbing over baby shoes, and Ella's running around like a frantic chicken, covering every expense." The genuine Becky stood motionless near the stage, her gold sequined gown, which had appeared so commanding moments before, now resembled a cheap costume. She scanned the room, desperately, seeking an ally, but found only a sea of hostile expressions. The guests were no longer just stunned, they were outraged. These were individuals who had brought lavish gifts, cleared their calendars, and emotionally invested in this miraculous pregnancy, and now they watched themselves ridiculed by the very people they had come to honor. On the screen, the video briefly went dark. Tanisha exhaled sharply, thinking it was over. She stepped forward, gathering herself, ready to shout about hackers or deepfakes. But the screen didn't remain blank. Suddenly, the display shifted. The footage was replaced by a stark official graphic. It resembled a courtroom exhibit of forensic accounting sheet projected 10 feet high. The title read, "Misappropriated Funds, the Price of Deception." I observed from the shadows as the crowd murmured. They were professionals. They understood spreadsheets. They grasped the language of theft. Daniel pressed the next button. A timeline emerged. It detailed dates, amounts, and vendors. January 15th, $5,000. Vendor, LH Wellness Group. Authorized user, Becky. A photo appeared beside the entry. It wasn't a medical invoice. It was a snapshot from Becky's own Instagram posted 2 days after the charge. In the image, she held a vintage Chanel flat bag, captioned, "Blessed Self-Care." The audience gasped. A woman in the front row, whom I recognized as one of Andre's investors, turned to glare at Becky with pure hatred. February 3rd, $2,000 cash transfer. Recipient, Dante. Note, emergency car repair. Another picture surfaced. It showed Dante checking into a VIP club in Miami, holding a bottle of Grey Goose, with a sparkler attached. The timestamp matched the transfer. The screen cycled through the evidence like a relentless beat of guilt. Every loan I had made, every medical bill I had paid, every emergency fund I had tapped was listed alongside proof of where the money truly went. Total misappropriated amount, $75,000. Dante ducked behind a waiter, looking like he wanted to vanish into the landscaping. My mother stared at the screen, hand covering her mouth, eyes wide with a mix of horror and disbelief. She was witnessing the receipts. She was seeing undeniable proof that her son and daughter-in-law was stealing. But it wasn't over. Daniel clicked again. The screen went dark. Then a waveform appeared, a simple audio line pulsing in silence. The voice that echoed through the speakers was unmistakable. It was Becky, a recording from a phone call she had made to Tanisha 3 weeks earlier, a call Daniel had retrieved from a cloud backup. "I don't know why you're worried about Andre finding out," Becky sneered, her tone dripping with disdain. "He's not going to look at the statements. You know how they are. These black men get a little money and think they're kings, but they don't read the fine print. They're so easy to fool. You just cry a little, talk about your legacy, and he opens the checkbook. It's pathetic, really." The atmosphere in the garden shifted instantly. Shock turned into a dangerous, simmering fury. This wasn't just fraud anymore. This was something deeper. This was hatred. Suddenly, shock morphed into a menacing, simmering rage. This was no longer just about deception. It cut much deeper. This was pure hatred. Andre stood on the stage, his back turned to the screen, yet he caught every word. His gaze fixed on Becky, his expression cold and unyielding. The audio carried on, and Ella Becky's voice laughed cruelly. "Please. She believes she belongs with us because she attended a prestigious school, but she's nothing more than another resentful black woman desperate for validation. She'll obey our every demand, terrified of confirming the stereotype. We have them all controlled, Tanisha. This entire family is ours." The audience erupted. What began as a low murmur quickly escalated into a deafening roar. Voices shouted. Someone hurled a champagne glass, shattering on the pavement near Becky's feet. Becky recoiled, shaking her head, silently mouthing, "This isn't true, it's not true." But the recording was irrefutable. Her bigotry, her disdain, her real self laid bare for all to witness. She had insulted the host, the guests, and the man footing her bills. Tanisha watched as the crowd turned hostile. She sensed the momentum shifting against them. She realized she had lost control of the story. There was no way to spin this. Panic surged, raw, animalistic panic. She let out a piercing scream that cut through the chaos. "Stop! Stop this right now!" She lunged forward, not toward the exit, but toward the source, in the direction of the tech booth where the cables were located. She aimed to sever the feed, to drown out the harsh truth. For a woman said to be pregnant with twins, she moved swiftly, her royal blue gown flowing dramatically behind her. "I'm going to destroy you, Ella," she shouted, her face contorted with pure venom. "I swear I will." At the stage's edge, where the main power cable ran to the generator, she reached out like a predator, ready to tear the cords free, but Andre blocked her path. He didn't strike or push. He simply stood firm. A towering figure, a former linebacker solid as granite. Tanisha tried to dodge, but her speed betrayed her, and her high heels hindered her balance. Andre subtly shifted his stance and extended his leg just slightly. The move was discreet, almost invisible, yet perfectly timed. Tanisha's foot snagged on his ankle. She stumbled forward, arms flailing desperately, grasping at nothing. She crashed onto the stage floor with a harsh thud, the sickening sound of bone and flesh meeting wood. Her body slid across the slick surface, propelled by momentum. Then it happened. The laws of physics exacted their toll. The impact snapped the sturdy industrial straps of the silicone prosthetic, the deluxe version, weighted to feel realistic. The belly broke free from its harness. Tanisha scrambled to rise, but as she pushed off the floor, the fake stomach didn't follow. It slipped free beneath her dress. Time seemed to slow. The heavy, flesh-toned mass detached from her frame. It rolled across the stage like a runaway tire. It wobbled, bounced once near the edge, then fell. It tumbled off the platform, landing with a wet, heavy thud on the grass right at my mother's feet. My mother glanced down. Dressed in her Sunday best, her church hat perfectly perched, she saw the twins. It was just a rubber lump, a 15-pound silicone orb painted to mimic skin. My mother stared silently at it. Twins. It was merely a rubber mass, a 15-pound silicone sphere painted to resemble skin. My mother gazed at it in silence. She then looked up at Tanisha, who was now kneeling on stage, her real stomach flat and heaving from exertion, her dress gathered around her waist. Tanisha's eyes met my mother's. There was no denying it anymore, no medical excuse, no spin. The deception lay exposed on the ground. The audience fell quiet once more, but this hush felt different. It was the hush of judgment, the hush of 100 people realizing they had been deceived. Becky sobbed, curled against an ornate pillar, trying to avoid the guest stares. Dante was nowhere to be found, probably slipping away as soon as the credit card statements flashed on the screen. Tanisha tried to cover herself, pulling her dress down. She struggled to stand, attempting to reclaim some dignity. "It's a medical device," she stammered, voice thin and frantic. I have a condition. The doctor said I needed support." She looked at Andre, silently begging him to believe her one last time. "Andre, please, you know I have back problems." Andre gazed at her, then at the empty space where her pregnancy had been. His eyes shifted to the screen, where the spreadsheet of her theft still glowed brightly in the twilight. He reached into his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a white envelope. He walked over to where she knelt. Without offering a hand, he dropped the envelope on the stage. It landed softly. "My lawyer prepared these this morning," Andre announced, his voice amplified by the microphone he still held. "It's a divorce petition citing fraud and a restraining order. You have 24 hours to leave my house." Tanisha stared at the documents but didn't touch them. "But the babies," she whispered. "There are no babies, Tanisha," Andre said coldly finally. "There never were." He turned his back and walked to the edge of the stage, looking down at my mother. "I'm sorry, Miss Williams," he said. "I know you hope for grandchildren, but you raised a thief and enabled a monster." My mother flinched, glancing from Andre to Tanisha, to the rubber belly at her feet. For the first time in her life, she looked truly aged, defeated. Suddenly, from the estate's front gate came a sound that pierced the tension like a siren, because it was a siren. Blue and red lights flashed beneath the oak canopy, casting long, shifting shadows across the lawn. The sirens grew louder as they approached up the driveway. Tanisha's head snapped up, eyes wide with a new terror. This was no longer social disgrace. This was real. She scrambled to her feet, searching for an escape, but the garden was enclosed by tall walls, with the only exit at the main gate where police cars were pulling in. I stepped out from the tech booth. Daniel followed closely behind, handing me a microphone. I walked onto the grass. The crowd parted, their expressions a mix of awe, fear, and respect. I was no longer their doormat, no longer their ATM. I moved until I stood before the stage, looking up at the woman who had been my best friend since kindergarten. Raising the microphone to my lips, I said, "Please remain calm, everyone." My voice steady and clear, echoing through the garden. Tanisha froze, like a deer caught in headlights. I gestured toward the flashing lights at the gate. As Tanisha moved through the garden, she suddenly stopped, frozen like a deer caught in headlights. I pointed toward the flashing lights at the gate. "I promised you a surprise, Tanisha," I said, "a spectacle you'd never forget." Two uniformed officers and two detectives in suits strode purposefully across the lawn. One detective held a pair of handcuffs. "So everyone stay calm," I continued. "Grab a drink, find a seat. The gender reveal is officially over." I locked eyes with Tanisha. But the main act is only just beginning. The officer marched across the neatly trimmed lawn with a heavy, coordinated step that silenced the murmurs of the crowd. The red and blue flashing lights from the patrol cars at the gate bathed the garden, turning the pristine white blossoms into warning signals under strobe-like illumination. It was like a scene straight out of a crime thriller, unfolding in the heart of Buckhead's most elite neighborhood. I stood near the tech booth, my hand resting lightly on the cool metal soundboard. I watched as the lead detective, a tall woman with her badge clipped to her belt, stepped onto the stage. She loomed over Tanisha, who was still curled up on the floorboards beside the rubber mound that was supposed to be her pregnancy. "Tanisha Williams," the detective announced, her voice clear in the sudden silence of the garden. "You are under arrest for theft by deception, grand larceny, and conspiracy to commit fraud." Tanisha glanced up, her makeup streaked with tears and sweat. For the first time, she looked small, like a child caught holding the match that ignited a wildfire. "No," she whimpered, scrambling backward until she hit the legs of the velvet throne she had insisted I rent. "You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. She did this to me." She pointed a trembling finger at me, but the detective ignored it and reached for Tanisha's wrist. "Stand up, Ms. Williams," the detective commanded. Tanisha resisted, flailing her arms and yelling about her rights and her condition, forgetting completely that her condition was now lying in pieces on the grass a few feet away. The detective moved quickly. In one fluid motion, she pulled Tanisha to her feet and spun her around. The handcuffs clicked shut with a sharp sound click, click, the noise of a steel door closing on the future Tanisha tried to steal. "I'm pregnant," Tanisha screamed, her voice breaking. "You're hurting the babies." The detective glanced down at the silicon belly on the stage, then back at Tanisha with a look of utter disdain. "The jail medical staff will evaluate you, ma'am," she said dryly. "But considering your twins are currently on the floor, I think booking will proceed." As Tanisha was led down the stairs, stumbling in her royal blue gown, other officers moved through the crowd. They weren't just here for the ringleader, they were after the accomplices too. Dante spotted them coming. My brother, who had strutted into the party like he owned the block, suddenly looked like a trapped rat. He tried to disappear into a group of Andre's investors, ducking his head and edging toward the service exit near the catering tent. But he hadn't taken 5 steps before 2 officers blocked his way. Dante froze, raising his hands in a weak gesture of surrender, a pitiful sight in the linen suit he'd bought with stolen credit cards. His hands lifted feebly in surrender, a heartbreaking sight in the linen suit he'd purchased with stolen credit cards. Dante Johnson, one of the officers, announced, "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of identity theft, credit card fraud, and grand larceny." Dante's eyes widened in panic. He looked around desperately, searching for a rescuer. His gaze settled on our mother, who stood near the front, frozen by shock. "Ma!" he shouted, his voice trembling with fear. "Ma, help me! They're hurting me! Tell them who we really are! Tell them to stop!" But she was powerless. The officer seized his arms, pulling them behind his back. Dante fought back, kicking his designer loafers, scraping the grass beneath them. "It wasn't me," he yelled, trying to bargain his way to freedom. "It was Becky. It was her scheme. She took the cards, she bought the bags, I just followed her orders." Across the lawn, Becky let out a piercing scream of outrage. She'd been trying to slip away behind a trellis of climbing roses, but the disturbance drew every eye to her shimmering gold sequin dress. "You liar," she yelled, pointing at her husband. "You dragged me into this. You said your sister owed us." An officer stepped forward, blocking her path. "Rebecca Johnson," he said, "you are also under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and multiple counts of credit card theft." Becky recoiled as if the officer were repulsive. She straightened to her full height, summoning every shred of entitlement she possessed. "Don't touch me," she snapped. "Do you know who I am? You can't arrest me. I'm a respectable woman." This is a mistake. That woman over there, she pointed a trembling finger at me. She's the criminal. Ella set me up. She gave me those cards. She told me to use them. The officer reached for her arm. Becky slapped his hand away. "Keep your hands off me," she shrieked, her voice rising to a painful pitch. "I'm a white woman. You can't do this to me. I'm the victim of a hate crime. This is reverse racism. That black witch set me up because she's jealous of me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones that had been lowered lifted again instantly. Hundreds of cameras focused on Becky, recording her meltdown in crystal clear detail. She was digging her own grave with every word, broadcasting her prejudice to all of Atlanta. She struggled as they handcuffed her, her gold sequins falling like scales. "Help me!" she screamed to the crowd. "Why is no one helping me? You're all watching an innocent woman being attacked." No one moved, no one spoke. The guests, the city's elite, watched with a mix of horror and fascination. They knew being connected to Becky right now was social death. She was toxic, radioactive. As they dragged her past the buffet table, she kicked over a tray of champagne glasses. The shards shattered, punctuating her downfall. I watched Dante being led away, sobbing like a child. I watched Becky dragged, kicking and screaming, spewing insults and excuses. Then I looked at my mother. She stood alone amid the chaos. Her hat was askew. Her hands clutched her chest. She watched her golden boy, her Dante, shoved into the back of the police cruiser. She watched her perfect daughter-in-law unmasked as a racist fraud. She looked at me. Her eyes were wide with a panic I'd never seen before. She took a step toward me, her mouth opening to plead, to demand I fix this as I always had, but the words never came. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. She insisted I resolve this as I always had, but the words failed me. Her eyes rolled back, and she crumpled. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed onto the grass, a tangle of floral silk and denial. It could have been genuine, or perhaps a calculated act to draw sympathy and divert attention from the disgrace of her son in handcuffs. I didn't stir to find out. I didn't rush to her side. Instead, I watched as two paramedics, who had been nearby, stepped forward to check her pulse. She was breathing. She was all right. She was simply fleeing in the only way she knew, dodging the harsh truth she had helped create. Andre remained on the stage. He had observed the arrest with an impassive expression, like a statue of stern judgment. Now, as the officers began clearing the area, he moved. He descended the stage steps, past my collapsing mother without a glance, and headed straight toward the police cruiser where Tanisha was detained. The back door was open, and Tanisha sat sideways, legs dangling out, sobbing into her hands. When she saw Andre, her tears stopped. A spark of hope ignited in her eyes. She believed he had come to rescue her. She thought she could still manipulate him. "Andre, darling," she whispered, reaching out with her cuffed hands. "Please tell them it's all a misunderstanding. Tell them we can fix this. I love you, Andre. I did this for us." Andre hauled 2 feet away. He reached into his tuxedo jacket pocket and pulled out a folded document. It was the divorce papers. He had kept it close all night, waiting for this moment. Instead of handing it to her, he tossed it onto her lap. "My attorney will meet you at the station," Andre said. His voice was low, but carried the finality of a verdict. He wasn't there to free her, Tanisha. He was there to serve her. Tanisha stared at the papers. "Andre, please," she pleaded. "I have nothing. If you leave me, I have nothing." "You have exactly what you brought into this marriage," Andre replied. "Deception and debt. The house is in my name, the accounts are frozen, the cars are leased. You're exiting my life just as you entered it, empty-handed." He leaned closer, his face mere inches from hers. "And Tanisha," he said, "if you ever utter my name again, if you ever try to contact me or my family, I will spend every cent I have to make sure you remain in that cell until you're old and gray. Do you understand me?" Tanisha recoiled into her seat, the truth finally piercing her delusion. She nodded slowly, tears streaming again. Andre straightened and signaled an officer, who slammed the car door shut, sealing Tanisha inside her new reality. The sirens blared once more as the police convoy began to move. One by one, the cars drove down the long driveway, carrying away the toxic remnants of my life. Tanisha, Dante, Becky, They were gone. The garden fell silent, save for the murmurs of guests and the whisper of the wind through the trees. The celebration was over, but no one left. They were too stunned, too charged by the drama to depart. I moved toward the bar. The bartender, a young man with wide eyes, regarded me with something like reverence. "Can I get you something, ma'am?" he asked politely. I scanned the selection of fine wines, the bottles I had purchased. I pointed to a vintage Cabernet. "Pour me a glass," I said. "Make it a generous one." He poured the deep red liquid, swirling in the crystal glass. I took it and walked away from the bar, heading toward the edge of the lawn where shadows ran deepest. I grabbed it and stepped away from the bar, making my way toward the farthest corner of the lawn where the shadows thickened. Alone, I stood quietly observing the scene. Paramedics were carefully placing my mother onto a stretcher. She was conscious now, sobbing loudly, calling out for Dante, and making sure everyone understood she was the victim here. Andre was shaking hands with the detectives, expressing thanks, signing off on reports. Daniel came up beside me without a word. He simply stood there, a calm, reassuring presence behind me. He slipped his arm around my waist, pulling me close. I took a sip of the wine, rich, layered, with hints of dark berries and oak. It tasted luxurious. It tasted like triumph. My eyes drifted to the empty stage where the silicon belly still lay discarded, a prop abandoned, in a play that had ended prematurely. I glanced at the screen, now dark and silent, the proof of their crime shut down. I felt no guilt, no sorrow. Instead, a deep calm washed over me. The noise was gone, the pressure was gone, the parasites were gone. I turned to Daniel and raised my glass in a quiet toast. "To the retirement plan," I murmured. He smiled and pressed a kiss to my temple. "To fresh starts," he replied. I took another sip and watched the last flicker of police lights fade away. I said nothing to my mother as they wheeled her past. I refused to meet her gaze or acknowledge her cries. My silence spoke volumes in that garden. It was the final full stop after a very long sentence. As I turned my back on the chaos and faced what lay ahead, I knew one thing for sure. I was finally free. Half a year later, the hush in my home felt different. It wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of secrets, nor the tense quiet before a plan. It was the silence of peace, the sound of sunlight streaming through the floorboards, the gentle hum of the coffee maker in the kitchen, the sound of a life cleansed of poison. I sat on my back porch, watching autumn leaves fall softly into the pool. The air was crisp in Atlanta, finally breaking the stifling humidity that had cloaked the city like a veil on that night, the night of the gender reveal. That night now seemed like a fevered dream, a vivid burst of color and noise that had reshaped my entire world. The wheels of justice turned slowly, but when forensic evidence is neatly organized in leather binders, things tend to speed up. Tanisha's sentencing was just last week. I didn't attend the courthouse. I didn't need to see her in prison orange to know justice had been done. Andre went instead. He told me she had broken down in tears when the judge announced the verdict: 5 years. 5 years in federal prison for wire fraud, grand theft, and conspiracy. The judge was unimpressed with her attempt to fake a medical emergency during arraignment. Apparently, fainting spells don't hold up when the court has video of you doing burpees in your bedroom while claiming to be bedridden. 5 years. She'd wanted a life of luxury without working. In a twisted sense, she got it: 3 meals a day, a roof over her head, a strict routine. But the luxury was gone. The power was gone. Her followers had abandoned her. Tanisha Williams, once Queen of Buckhead, was now just inmate number 84620. Becky's fall from grace had been far louder and more public. The internet does not forgive, nor does it forget. The video of her shouting racial slurs at the police went viral within hours of the party. Does she forget? The footage of her hurling racial insults at the police spread like wildfire just hours after the party. It became a global sensation. By Monday morning, her employer, a small PR agency, released a public statement terminating her immediately to distance themselves from the backlash. Yet society's judgment was far more severe than any legal consequences. Becky was doxxed, her social media inundated with hostile messages. She attempted to recast herself as a victim of cancel culture, but no one was convinced. Without Dante's income, which had always been a mirage, and without my credit card supporting their lifestyle, their fragile world crumbled. The bank foreclosed on their sprawling suburban home. The leasing company reclaimed the furniture. Last I heard, Becky was living in her parents' basement in rural Georgia. She declared bankruptcy and had to sell her collection of handbags, the very ones she bought with my money just to cover her legal bills. The woman who once sneered at my silk dress was now rummaging through discount racks. And I hoped she found some durable clothes. She was going to need them. Dante faced a slightly lighter sentence because he cooperated and testified against Tanisha and Becky, portraying himself as the clueless husband caught up in a scheme he didn't fully grasp. He avoided jail time, but received 3 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. I spotted him once a few weeks ago. Driving down the highway to a client meeting, I saw a road crew in orange vests picking up litter along the median. There he was, my brother, the man who never wore anything but Italian loafers, using a stick to spear discarded fast food wrappers. He looked worn out, he looked aged. He looked like someone who had finally realized the world doesn't owe him anything. Now he's living in a motel, working minimum wage jobs because his background check flags him for fraud. He's finally learning the true value of money the hard way. And then there's my mother. Her punishment is the quietest and most lasting. She's not behind bars. She's not bankrupt. She's simply isolated. The bridge club stopped inviting her once the news broke. The church ladies stopped saving her a seat. The social status she prized above her own children vanished the moment the truth surfaced. She lives in her immaculate house, surrounded by expensive possessions, with no one to share them with. She calls me every day at 6 p.m. I don't know what she wants to say. Maybe she wants to apologize. Maybe she wants to ask for money. Maybe she just wants to hear a voice that isn't her own echo in an empty room. I never answer. I blocked her number months ago, but I see her calls in my log. It's a daily reminder that she made her choice. She chose the lie. She chose the facade. And now she must live trapped inside the portrait she created alone. I took a sip of my tea and glanced at the alert on my phone, a deposit notification. 2 days ago, a check had cleared, $100,000. It was from Andre. He had sold the Buckhead house. He said he couldn't stay there anymore, not with the ghosts of the fake nursery and the memories of the betrayal. He downsized to a city condo, focusing on rebuilding his business and his life. When he sent the money, he included a note. Ella, this is the $60,000 they stole from you, plus interest, plus a stupidity tax on me for trusting them. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for opening my eyes. I didn't keep the money. Daniel and I didn't need it. You saved my life. Thank you for opening my eyes. I didn't pocket the money. Daniel and I had no use for it. We had our professions, we had our honor, and we had each other. That cash was stained. It was money soaked in pain from a wound that had finally closed. So we passed it on. We launched The Truth in Numbers Scholarship Fund, a program aimed at helping underprivileged girls from our old neighborhood pursue degrees in finance and accounting. We wanted to equip them with the skills to uncover the truth behind the figures, just like I did. We aimed to empower a generation of women who would never be targets, who would never fall prey, who would understand exactly where every cent went. I smiled, thinking of our first beneficiary, a bright-eyed girl named Maya, who dreamed of becoming an auditor. She reminded me of myself back then, eager, sharp, and ready to conquer the world. That money would do far more good in her hands than it ever did in Tanisha's. The sliding glass door slid open, and Daniel stepped out onto the porch. He carried 2 mugs of coffee, a smile lighting up his face that made my heart race. He settled beside me and handed me a mug. You look happy, he said. I am happy, I answered. It's finally behind us, Daniel. The dust has settled. The villains lost. The heroes won. It feels like the end of a movie. It's not the end, he said, leaning in to press a kiss to my forehead. It's the sequel. He pulled his phone from his pocket. By the way, he said casually, but with a twinkle in his eyes, Dr. Patel called while you were outside. She said she tried reaching your cell, but it was on silent. I froze. My teacup clinked against the saucer. Dr. Patel was my fertility doctor. We had started seeing her again 2 months ago, quietly, privately, without telling anyone. After the stress of the investigation, after purging my life of toxic family ties, I felt ready to try once more. But I was scared. I had faced disappointment too many times. "What did she say?" I whispered. Daniel's grin broadened. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a printed sheet. "It was a lab report," she said. "Your HCG levels are off the charts." Daniel said. "She said, everything looks perfect. Ella, you're pregnant." I stared at him. The world stopped turning. The birds stopped singing. The only sound was the rush of my own blood. "Pregnant?" I asked. For real? Really?" He said, "No silicone, no Velcro, no lies, just us." Tears streamed down my face. But they weren't tears of sorrow I'd shed in the car that day outside the party. They weren't tears of anger I'd cried in the hospital. They were tears of pure, unfiltered joy. I placed my hand on my belly. It was still flat, no bump yet, but beneath my palm, I felt the warmth of my own skin. I felt the life beginning to grow there, shielded by love, guarded by truth. Daniel wrapped his arms around me, and we sat there on the porch, laughing and crying together. I thought of Tanisha in her cell. I thought of the fake belly rolling in the grass. I thought of the desperate craving for attention that drove her to ruin everything. And then I thought of this baby, this real tiny secret. "We're not doing a big announcement, are we?" I asked, wiping my eyes. Daniel chuckled. No parties, no blue smoke, no social media." "Good," I said. "Let's just keep it between us. Let's just be a family." Because that was the ultimate lesson. That was the truth forged in the fire. Family isn't about blood. Blood is just biology. Blood is Dante stealing my identity. Truth is tempered in flames. Family isn't defined by blood. Blood is mere biology. Blood is Dante stealing my very identity. Blood is my mother watching me struggle and asking why I'm soaked. Family is those who stand by your side when your world is collapsing. Family is the husband who drives you to the crime scene and helps collect the proof. Family is the friend who trusts you when everyone else calls you insane. Family shields you through the storm, not the ones who bring the thunder. I gazed at the Atlanta skyline, the city where I had lost so much and yet gained even more. "We'll be all right," I whispered. Daniel kissed my hand. "We're more than all right, Ella. We're free." And as I sat there with my husband and the secret growing within me, I knew he was right. The scales were balanced, the debt settled, and for the first time ever, the future wasn't a transaction. It was a gift. The hardest lesson wasn't about money. It was understanding that blind loyalty can be a dangerous vulnerability. I discovered family isn't about DNA, but about mutual respect and protection. Tanisha and my relatives mistook my kindness for weakness, my generosity for naivety, but they underestimated the resilience of a woman pushed beyond her limits. True peace comes only from severing toxic ties, no matter how deeply they're rooted. I replaced a circle of drainers with a circle of defenders, proving that while we can't choose our bloodline, we absolutely can choose our path forward. Have you ever had to cut ties with a toxic friend or family member to protect yourself? Share your experience in the comments below and subscribe for more.